Purpose is the foundation of how we live, work, and grow. It shapes the choices we make, the energy we put into our days, and the impact we leave behind. Without it, life can feel scattered, overwhelming, or even meaningless. With it, every action has direction, every challenge becomes a chance to grow, and every day can feel intentional and fulfilling. This audiobook is about discovering that purpose and learning how to live it in practical, everyday ways. You'll learn how to identify what truly matters to you, set goals that match your values, and take deliberate action that moves your life forward. You'll see how small daily habits, consistent reflection, and conscious choices can build resilience, clarity, and long-term growth. We will explore how to stay focused when distractions appear, protect your energy, balance ambition with well-being, and use your actions to inspire others authentically. You'll discover how to lead yourself first, measure progress honestly, and turn failures into lessons that strengthen your path. Each chapter is designed to give you clear steps and insights you can apply immediately to feel more in control, confident, and purposeful. By the end, you won't just understand purpose, you'll know how to live it every day. This is a guide for anyone ready to take control of their life, act intentionally, and create a sense of meaning in everything they do. Stay with this audiobook and learn how to turn purpose into practical, real-life action that transforms your days and inspires those around you. Chapter 1T. Discover your purpose through honest self-assessment daily. Most people move through their days reacting instead of choosing, busy instead of intentional, tired instead of fulfilled, and they often mistake this constant motion for progress. Yet beneath the noise of responsibilities, expectations, and habits lies a quieter question that never truly goes away. Why am I doing what I am doing? This question does not demand a dramatic answer or a perfect life plan. It asks for honesty. Purpose does not appear as a sudden revelation. It is built slowly through clear self-assessment repeated daily. When you understand yourself truthfully, you begin to live with direction instead of confusion, with calm instead of pressure, and with inner strength instead of constant doubt. Purpose is not something you borrow from others or inherit from society. It grows from understanding how you think, what you value, what you avoid, and what you consistently move toward even when no one is watching. Honest self-assessment is the foundation of that understanding. Without it, effort is scattered, motivation fades, and life feels heavy even when success appears on the surface. With it, even difficult days feel meaningful because your actions align with who you are becoming. Many people avoid honest self-assessment because it feels uncomfortable. It requires facing weaknesses without excuses and strengths without false humility. It asks you to observe patterns instead of defending them. Yet this discomfort is temporary. The cost of avoiding self-assessment is permanent confusion. When you do not know yourself, others define you. When you do not choose your direction, circumstances choose it for you. Purpose begins the moment you stop running from yourself and start listening. Daily self-assessment does not mean harsh self-criticism. It means calm observation. It means noticing your thoughts, your reactions, and your decisions with clarity rather than judgment. A stoic mindset approaches this process with discipline and patience. You are not trying to feel good about yourself. You are trying to see clearly. Clear vision leads to steady improvement. Emotional reactions fade. Honest awareness remains. Begin by observing how you spend your time. Time is the most truthful mirror. It reveals what you actually care about rather than what you claim to care about. Look at a typical day. Notice where your energy goes. Notice what drains you and what gives you quiet satisfaction. This observation alone can reveal more about your purpose than years of abstract thinking. Purpose often hides inside repeated behaviors that feel meaningful even when they are difficult. Pay attention to moments of resistance. Resistance often points to growth. When a task feels uncomfortable yet necessary, it may align with a deeper purpose. When avoidance becomes a habit, it signals fear or misalignment. Honest self-assessment requires you to ask why without blame. Why do I delay this? Why do I feel tension here? Why does this matter to me? Answers emerge slowly, but they emerge truthfully. Notice emotional patterns. Emotions are not instructions, but they are information. Irritation may reveal violated values. Calm satisfaction may reveal alignment. Restlessness may signal a lack of meaning rather than a lack of rest. Do not suppress emotions or dramatize them. Observe them as signals. Over time, patterns become clear. Purpose often sits beneath repeated emotional responses. Values form the core of purpose. Values are not ideals written on paper. They are standards lived daily. Honest self-assessment requires comparing your actions with your stated values. If they do not match, something must change. Either the value is false or the behavior is. This clarity removes internal conflict. A person aligned with values feels grounded even during struggle. Ask yourself simple, direct questions regularly. What actions today felt meaningful? What actions felt empty? Where did I act out of habit rather than intention? Where did I avoid responsibility? Where did I act with integrity? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to sharpen awareness. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates purpose. Purpose is strengthened through consistency rather than intensity. Daily self-assessment works because it prevents self-deception from growing unchecked. Small adjustments made daily prevent large regrets later. One honest moment per day is more powerful than 1,000 motivational words. This practice trains the mind to value truth over comfort. Notice how you respond to challenges. Difficulty reveals character more clearly than comfort. Do you complain or adapt? Do you blame or learn? Do you withdraw or engage? These responses show what you believe about yourself and the world. Purpose grows when you respond intentionally rather than react emotionally. Each challenge becomes feedback rather than failure. Observe how you treat yourself when you fall short. Self-respect grows from accountability paired with compassion. If you excuse everything, growth stops. If you attack yourself, resilience breaks. Honest self-assessment balances firmness with fairness. You acknowledge mistakes without building an identity around them. This balance creates long-term strength. Daily self-assessment also reveals false goals. Many people chase goals that impress others but leave them empty. When you check in honestly, you notice when progress feels hollow. That feeling is not weakness, it is guidance. Purposeful goals energize even when they require sacrifice. Empty goals drain even when achieved. Quiet reflection strengthens clarity. Silence removes distraction. A few minutes each day without noise allows deeper thoughts to surface. Purpose speaks quietly. It does not compete with constant stimulation. Daily moments of stillness allow honest answers to rise naturally. Writing supports self-assessment. Simple journaling helps organize thoughts and track patterns. Write about what mattered today. Write about what did not. Over time, themes appear. Purpose reveals itself through repetition. Writing does not need to be polished. It needs to be honest. Physical habits influence mental clarity. Poor sleep, constant distraction, and lack of movement cloud self-assessment. Purpose requires a body that supports awareness. Simple discipline in physical routines strengthens mental focus. Care for the body as a tool for purposeful living. Purpose is not static. It evolves as understanding deepens. Daily self-assessment allows purpose to refine rather than collapse. You are not searching for a final answer. You are building a relationship with yourself based on truth. This relationship guides decisions naturally. Notice what you admire in others. Admiration often reflects dormant values. When you respect someone's discipline, courage, or service, examine why. That admiration points toward qualities your purpose may include. Do not copy paths. Understand principles. Notice what angers you. Anger often signals values being violated. When something repeatedly frustrates you, explore the underlying belief. Purpose often involves protecting or promoting something deeply valued. Anger without reflection becomes bitterness. Anger examined becomes direction. Honest self-assessment also includes acknowledging limitations. Purpose does not demand perfection. It demands realism. Knowing your limits allows strategic growth. Ignoring limits leads to burnout. Respecting limits leads to sustainable progress. Daily self-assessment builds self-trust. When you consistently observe honestly, you learn you can rely on your judgment. This trust reduces external validation seeking. Decisions become quieter and more confident. Purpose becomes internal rather than performative. Purpose grows through responsibility. Assess where you avoid responsibility. Avoidance weakens meaning. Responsibility strengthens identity. Each responsibility accepted intentionally adds weight to purpose. Not all responsibilities are equal. Choose those aligned with values. Notice how you use excuses. Excuses protect comfort at the cost of growth. Honest self-assessment identifies excuses without justification. Once seen clearly, excuses lose power. Purpose demands ownership. Purpose also requires patience. Clarity does not arrive on demand. Daily assessment plants seeds. Growth occurs beneath the surface before visible change appears. Trust the process. Discipline creates momentum. Self-assessment should end with action. Insight without action becomes frustration. Choose one small adjustment daily. Adjust behavior slightly toward alignment. Over time, these adjustments compound. Purpose becomes visible through behavior rather than thought. Purpose strengthens resilience. When actions align with meaning, hardship feels worthwhile. Without purpose, even ease feels empty. Daily self-assessment ensures alignment remains intact. When misalignment appears, correction follows quickly. Observe your inner dialogue. Language shapes belief. Harsh internal language weakens resolve. Vague language weakens direction. Clear, honest language strengthens purpose. Speak to yourself as a disciplined mentor would. Calm, direct, supportive. Purpose also involves contribution. Self-assessment should include how your actions affect others. Meaning grows when life extends beyond self-interest. Observe when service feels fulfilling. That fulfillment points toward purpose. Notice patterns across weeks rather than isolated days. Purpose reveals itself through consistency. One emotional day does not define direction. Repeated experiences do. Track them calmly. Honest self-assessment builds humility. You see progress without arrogance and flaws without despair. This balance creates stability. Stable individuals sustain purpose longer. Purpose requires courage. Honesty exposes truths that demand change. Change challenges comfort. Courage allows alignment. Each honest assessment strengthens courage gradually. Avoid comparing your purpose with others. Comparison distorts clarity. Purpose is personal yet universal in its demand for integrity. Measure against values, not against people. Purpose thrives on simplicity. Complicated explanations often hide confusion. Simple understanding directs clear action. Daily self-assessment cuts through noise. Notice when life feels lighter. Lightness often accompanies alignment. Heaviness often signals misalignment. These sensations are feedback. Purpose deepens through repetition. One day of honesty changes little. Daily honesty changes identity. Identity shapes destiny. When resistance arises, remain present. Do not escape through distraction. Sit with discomfort briefly. Answers often follow. Purpose also includes rest. Overworking without reflection disconnects meaning. Balance effort with awareness. Daily self-assessment is an act of respect. You respect your time, your energy, and your potential. Purpose grows where respect lives. As days pass, you will notice decisions becoming easier. Confusion fades, energy stabilizes, confidence becomes quiet. Purpose no longer feels like a question. It feels like direction. This practice does not promise constant happiness. It promises clarity. Clarity creates resilience. Resilience sustains growth. Each morning offers a choice: move unconsciously or live deliberately. Each evening offers reflection: learn or repeat. Purpose lives between these moments. Over time, honest self-assessment transforms identity. You stop asking who you should be. You become who you are choosing daily. Purpose is not found. It is built. Built through attention. Built through honesty. Built through discipline. Built daily. When life feels uncertain, return to self-assessment. It anchors you. When success arrives, return to self-assessment. It humbles you. Purpose does not require extraordinary circumstances. It requires ordinary honesty practiced consistently. Begin today. Observe, reflect, adjust. Repeat. Purpose will meet you where discipline remains. This is how a meaningful life is constructed. Quietly, daily, intentionally. Chapter 20 and define clear values that guide every daily decision. Every decision you make, no matter how small it appears, is guided by something deeper than logic or circumstance. Behind every choice is a value, whether you are aware of it or not. Values are the silent drivers of behavior. They decide how you speak when you are tired, how you act when no one is watching, how you respond when pressure rises, and how you choose between comfort and responsibility. When values are unclear, decisions become heavy and inconsistent. When values are clear, decisions become simple, steady, and calm. A purposeful life is not built on constant motivation. It is built on clear values that quietly guide daily actions. Many people believe they have values, but what they often have are preferences, borrowed beliefs, or ideals they admire but do not live by. A true value is something you consistently protect with your time, energy, and choices, even when it costs you something. If a belief disappears the moment it becomes inconvenient, it is not a value. Honest living begins by separating what sounds good from what is actually practiced. This clarity is not meant to judge you. It is meant to free you. Clear values remove mental clutter. When values are undefined, every decision requires excessive thought. You hesitate, second-guess, and replay conversations in your mind. When values are defined, choices align naturally. You do not need to analyze every situation. You already know what matters. This reduces stress, builds confidence, and conserves energy for what truly counts. Values are personal standards, not rules imposed by others. They are internal agreements about how you choose to live. Society may reward certain behaviors, and people may expect certain roles from you, but values decide whether you accept or reject those expectations. Without values, you drift between approval and pressure. With values, you stand steady even when misunderstood. To define clear values, you must first observe your behavior honestly. Look at how you act under pressure, not how you wish you acted. Notice where you consistently show up and where you consistently withdraw. Patterns reveal values more accurately than words. If you claim honesty but avoid difficult truths, comfort may be your real value. If you claim growth but resist discipline, ease may be guiding you more than progress. This awareness is not failure. It is information. Pay attention to moments of internal conflict. Conflict often arises when actions clash with values. If you feel uneasy after agreeing to something, a value may have been compromised. If you feel calm after setting a boundary, a value was likely honored. These signals help identify what truly matters to you. Consider what you are willing to sacrifice for. Sacrifice reveals priority. If you are willing to give time, energy, or comfort for something, it likely holds value. If you consistently avoid sacrifice in a certain area, that area may not align with your values despite good intentions. Values should be few and clear. Too many values dilute focus. Choose principles that guide behavior across situations. Clarity matters more than quantity. A small set of well-lived values creates more strength than a long list of vague ideals. Once values are identified, they must be defined in practical terms. A value without behavior is meaningless. If discipline is a value, define what disciplined behavior looks like daily. If respect is a value, define how it shows up in conversations, work, and conflict. If growth is a value, define the actions that support learning and improvement. Clear definitions turn abstract ideas into daily guidance. Values should guide decisions both large and small. They should influence how you manage time, speak to others, respond to stress, and treat yourself. When values guide only major life choices but not daily habits, they lose power. Purpose lives in ordinary decisions repeated consistently. Values also serve as filters. Opportunities will arise that look appealing but conflict with your standards. Clear values allow you to decline without guilt. Saying no becomes an act of self-respect rather than fear. Each decision aligned with values strengthens identity. Living by values builds inner stability. External conditions change constantly. Praise and criticism fluctuate. Success and failure alternate. Values remain steady. They provide continuity when circumstances shift. This stability supports resilience. Values also protect you from impulsive behavior. When emotions run high, values offer grounding. Instead of reacting, you respond according to principles. This does not remove emotion. It prevents emotion from controlling behavior. This control is strength. Defining values requires honesty about weaknesses. If patience is a value but impatience dominates behavior, acknowledge it without excuse. Values are not a description of perfection. They are a direction for growth. Recognizing the gap between values and behavior creates focus rather than shame. Values must be revisited regularly. Growth changes perspective. Experiences refine understanding. Reviewing values ensures they remain relevant and lived. This review is not about replacing values frequently. It is about deepening commitment. Clear values improve relationships. When others know what you stand for, trust increases. Boundaries become understandable. Conflict becomes clearer. Relationships built on clear values experience fewer misunderstandings and less resentment. Values also shape self-respect. When actions align with values, confidence grows quietly. You trust yourself. This trust reduces the need for external validation. Approval becomes less important than integrity. Values guide leadership, even personal leadership. Leading yourself requires clear standards. Without them, discipline fades. With them, consistency grows. You do not rely on mood. You rely on principle. Daily decisions are where values are tested. Choosing how to spend an hour, how to speak in frustration, how to respond to setbacks. These moments define character. Values turn ordinary moments into purposeful actions. Values should be written down in simple language. Complexity weakens clarity. Simple words are easier to remember and apply. Review them regularly. Not as motivation, but as alignment. Living by values does not guarantee ease. It guarantees meaning. Some choices will be difficult. Some paths will be lonely. Values provide the strength to endure discomfort without resentment. Values also create direction. When unsure what to do next, ask which choice honors your values. This question simplifies complexity. It may not make the choice easy, but it makes it clear. Clear values reduce regret. Even when outcomes disappoint, alignment brings peace. Regret often comes from betraying values, not from failed effort. Values shape identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. This sequence determines life quality. Values sit at the beginning. Define values that support growth rather than comfort alone. Comfort is necessary at times, but growth sustains purpose. Balance matters. Values should include how you treat yourself. Self-respect, honesty, and discipline apply inwardly as much as outwardly. Neglecting this leads to burnout or self-betrayal. Values influence long-term success. Talent fluctuates, motivation fades, values endure, endurance builds mastery. Values must be lived quietly. Broadcasting them without practicing weakens credibility. Consistency builds influence naturally. As values guide decisions daily, life feels less chaotic. You feel grounded. You move with intention. Purpose becomes visible through action. Defining clear values is an act of responsibility. It means choosing who you are rather than drifting into roles defined by circumstance. This choice is empowering. When values are clear, decisions no longer exhaust you. You conserve mental energy. You act with calm confidence. You accept consequences without resentment. Values do not restrict freedom. They create it. Freedom without direction leads to confusion. Direction creates meaningful freedom. Each day offers opportunities to practice values. Notice them. Choose intentionally. Small decisions accumulate. Over time, living by values transforms character. Character shapes destiny. This transformation is quiet but powerful. Return to values when uncertain. Let them guide you forward. This is how a purposeful life is built, one decision at a time, guided by values chosen consciously and lived daily. Chapter 5: Align goals with purpose to strengthen lasting motivation. Many people struggle with motivation not because they are lazy or incapable, but because their goals are disconnected from their deeper sense of purpose. When goals exist only as numbers, titles, or external rewards, they demand constant force to pursue. That force fades quickly. When goals are aligned with purpose, motivation becomes steady and internal. You no longer need to push yourself every day. You move forward because the direction feels right. Alignment turns effort into commitment and struggle into meaning. Goals are tools, not destinations. They are meant to serve a larger direction, not replace it. When goals are chosen without purpose, they often feel heavy. You chase them because you feel you should, not because you believe in them. This creates inner resistance. Alignment removes that resistance. When a goal supports who you are becoming, action feels natural even when the work is demanding. Purpose gives context to goals. Without context, goals feel random. With context, each goal becomes a step rather than a burden. You understand why the effort matters. This understanding fuels persistence. When obstacles appear, you do not quit easily because the goal is connected to something deeper than convenience. Many people set goals based on comparison. They see what others have and pursue similar outcomes. These goals rarely sustain motivation. Comparison-driven goals create pressure rather than clarity. Purpose-driven goals create focus. They are chosen intentionally rather than reactively. They reflect internal direction rather than external noise. Alignment begins with asking honest questions. Why does this goal matter to me? Who does it help me become? What value does it serve? If the answers feel shallow or borrowed, motivation will be weak. If the answers feel grounded and personal, motivation strengthens naturally. Goals should reflect values in action. Values describe what matters. Goals describe how you live those values. If growth is a value, goals should challenge you. If integrity is a value, goals should not require compromise. If service is a value, goals should extend beyond self-interest. This connection creates coherence. Life feels organized rather than scattered. Misaligned goals create internal conflict. You may achieve them and still feel empty. That emptiness is not ingratitude, it is feedback. It signals that effort was invested in the wrong direction. Alignment prevents this outcome by ensuring goals contribute to meaning rather than just achievement. Aligned goals also simplify decision-making. When opportunities arise, you can evaluate them quickly. Does this move me closer to my purpose or distract me from it? This clarity protects time and energy. You stop chasing everything and start choosing deliberately. Motivation rooted in purpose is resilient. External motivation depends on mood, praise, or results. Purpose-based motivation survives difficulty. Even when progress slows, commitment remains. You continue because stopping would mean abandoning something meaningful. Goals should be realistic yet demanding. Alignment does not mean comfort. It means relevance. A goal can be difficult and still aligned. Difficulty becomes tolerable when effort contributes to purpose. Without alignment, even easy goals feel exhausting. Short-term goals should support long-term direction. When daily tasks feel disconnected from larger purpose, motivation drops. Connecting small actions to long-term meaning restores energy. You understand that today's effort is not wasted. It is part of a larger process. Avoid setting goals solely to escape discomfort. Goals chosen to avoid fear or insecurity rarely last. They are reactions rather than intentions. Purpose-based goals move toward growth rather than away from discomfort. This shift strengthens resolve. Alignment also requires letting go of goals that no longer serve you. Holding on to outdated goals drains energy. Releasing them is not failure. It is refinement. Purpose evolves as understanding deepens. Goals must evolve accordingly. Write goals in a way that reflects purpose. Instead of focusing only on outcomes, focus on contribution and growth. This framing shifts attention from results to process. Process-driven goals sustain motivation longer than outcome-driven ones. Aligned goals improve discipline. Discipline becomes an expression of self-respect rather than force. You show up because it matters, not because you feel pressured. This changes your relationship with effort. Alignment also reduces burnout. Burnout often results from prolonged effort toward goals that conflict with values. When goals align with purpose, effort feels meaningful rather than draining. Rest becomes restorative rather than escape. Purpose-aligned goals encourage patience. You understand that progress takes time. You are less likely to rush or compare. You focus on consistency rather than speed. This patience protects quality. Goals should challenge identity in a healthy way. They should stretch capabilities without breaking integrity. When a goal demands behavior that feels wrong, alignment is lost. Listen to that signal. Adjust direction rather than suppress awareness. Review goals regularly. Ask whether they still align with purpose. This review prevents drift. Drift is subtle. It happens when routine replaces intention. Regular review restores clarity. Aligned goals also strengthen confidence. Each step taken reinforces identity. You see yourself acting in accordance with purpose. This builds quiet confidence. You trust your direction even when outcomes fluctuate. Avoid overcrowding your life with goals. Too many goals divide attention. Alignment requires focus. Choose fewer goals that matter deeply. Depth creates momentum. When motivation fades, Revisit purpose rather than forcing action. Reconnecting with meaning restores energy more effectively than self-pressure. Purpose is the source. Goals are expressions. Aligned goals influence how you handle failure. Failure becomes information rather than identity. You adjust strategy without abandoning direction. This resilience supports long-term success. Goals should also include internal growth, not just external achievement. Skills, character, and awareness matter. These internal goals strengthen capacity to pursue external ones. Alignment brings calm urgency. You feel driven without panic. You act decisively without haste. This balance improves judgment. Purpose-aligned goals attract support. When your direction is clear, others understand how to engage with you. Collaboration becomes easier. Misalignment often shows up as procrastination. Procrastination is not always laziness. It is often resistance to meaningless effort. Alignment reduces resistance. Goals should serve life rather than consume it. Purpose includes well-being. Goals that undermine health or integrity weaken long-term motivation. Alignment also requires courage. Choosing purpose over approval may disappoint others. Accept this calmly. Integrity matters more than agreement. Over time, aligned goals shape identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes outcomes. This cycle builds a meaningful life. Each day offers a chance to align actions with goals and goals with purpose. Small choices reinforce direction. When purpose leads and goals follow, motivation becomes stable. You no longer rely on excitement. You rely on meaning. This alignment is not dramatic. It is practical. It is built through honest evaluation and disciplined adjustment. A life guided by aligned goals feels intentional. You know why you wake up and why you work. This clarity is strength. Continue refining alignment. Growth demands it. Motivation depends on it. This is how lasting motivation is built. Not through force, through purpose expressed as clear intentional goals. Chapter 4. Commit to purposeful habits that shape consistent progress. Progress rarely arrives through sudden effort or dramatic change. It is built quietly through habits practiced when motivation is low and attention is scattered. Purposeful habits are the bridge between intention and outcome. Without them, purpose remains an idea and goals remain plans. With them, progress becomes predictable. A disciplined life is not rigid or joyless. It is structured in a way that supports growth regardless of mood, circumstance, or external pressure. Many people wait for motivation to act, but motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls based on emotion, energy, and environment. Habits remove the need for constant motivation. They turn effort into routine. When habits are aligned with purpose, they create momentum that carries you forward even on difficult days. This is where real consistency is formed. A habit becomes purposeful when it serves a clear direction. Random habits create motion without meaning. Purposeful habits support who you are becoming. They are chosen deliberately rather than copied blindly. They reflect values and long-term intent rather than short-term comfort. This distinction matters. Busy routines can exhaust you. Purposeful routines strengthen you. Commitment to habits requires acceptance of repetition. Many avoid habits because repetition feels dull. Yet repetition is where mastery lives. Progress does not require novelty every day. It requires reliability. Showing up consistently builds trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence. Start by identifying behaviors that directly support your purpose. Focus on actions within your control. Habits should be simple enough to repeat daily, but meaningful enough to matter. Overcomplication leads to avoidance. Simplicity leads to execution. Purposeful habits often feel small. Their power lies in accumulation. Reading a few pages daily may seem insignificant, yet over time it reshapes thinking. Short periods of focused work build skill. Regular movement supports energy. Small actions repeated create large change. Consistency matters more than intensity. Intense effort followed by long gaps creates instability. Steady effort creates reliability. Purpose is supported by rhythm rather than bursts. Rhythm reduces decision fatigue. You act because it is time, not because you feel inspired. Habits should be anchored to existing routines. This reduces resistance. Attaching new behaviors to familiar moments increases follow-through. The goal is to remove friction. The easier a habit fits into daily life, the more likely it will last. Purposeful habits require patience. Results may not appear quickly. Early stages test commitment. This is where many quit. Trust the process. Growth often occurs beneath the surface before becoming visible. Quitting early interrupts momentum. Discipline is not punishment. It is structure that protects progress. When habits are chosen intentionally, discipline becomes an expression of self-respect. You are honoring commitments made to yourself. This changes how effort feels. Purposeful habits also require boundaries. You must protect time and energy. Without boundaries, habits are crowded out by distraction. Saying no supports saying yes to what matters. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. Habits should be reviewed periodically. Not all habits remain useful forever. Purpose evolves. Habits should adapt accordingly. Review strengthens alignment. Remove habits that no longer serve. Reinforce those that do. Avoid trying to change everything at once. This overwhelms focus. Choose a few key habits that create the most impact. Depth creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Habits shape identity. Repeated behavior reinforces self-image. When you act consistently, you begin to see yourself differently. Identity change sustains habit change. This cycle strengthens commitment. Purposeful habits include rest and recovery. Constant effort without restoration leads to fatigue. Rest supports sustainability. Recovery allows clarity. Balance protects long-term progress. Habits should support mental clarity. Reducing noise improves focus. Limiting unnecessary input creates space for intentional thought. Clarity strengthens decision-making. Habits also influence emotional regulation. Consistent routines stabilize mood. Predictability reduces stress. This stability supports resilience. When habits feel difficult, return to purpose. Purpose provides reason. Reason fuels perseverance. Do not negotiate with discomfort. Acknowledge it and continue. Avoid perfection. Missed days happen. Progress is not erased by inconsistency. What matters is returning without self-punishment. Resilience grows through recovery, not avoidance. Habits should be measured by consistency rather than outcome. Focus on showing up. Outcomes follow behavior. This reduces pressure and increases follow-through. Purposeful habits often require delayed gratification. Immediate comfort may conflict with long-term growth. Discipline bridges this gap. Each disciplined action strengthens future capacity. Habits also simplify life. Decisions decrease. Energy is conserved. You know what to do without debate. This frees mental space for creativity and problem-solving. External accountability can support habit formation, but internal commitment matters more. Build habits you respect. Respect sustains effort when external support fades. Purposeful habits should align with natural energy patterns. Observe when focus is highest. Schedule demanding tasks accordingly. This increases effectiveness. Habits are influenced by environment. Shape surroundings to support behavior. Reduce cues for distraction. Increase cues for action. Environment often determines success more than willpower. Habits should be realistic. Overambitious routines collapse. Sustainable routines endure. Aim for what you can repeat consistently. Purposeful habits strengthen resilience. During uncertainty, routine provides stability. Structure anchors you when circumstances shift. Habits also support confidence. Each completed action reinforces self-belief. Confidence grows from evidence, not affirmation. Avoid comparing habits with others. Your context is unique. Build routines that fit your life. Consistency matters more than appearance. Habits should support contribution. Growth is not only personal. Habits that improve how you serve others deepen meaning. Over time, habits become automatic. Automatic behavior reduces effort. Progress becomes the default rather than the exception. Commitment to habits is a long-term agreement. It requires honesty and patience. Progress follows those who persist calmly. Purposeful habits transform intention into reality. They are the daily actions that make growth unavoidable. Each day offers a choice. Act with intention or drift with convenience. Habits decide which path you follow. Choose habits that honor purpose. Protect them. Practice them. Let time do the rest. This is how consistent progress is built. Quietly. Steadily. Through purposeful habits lived daily. Chapter 50. Build resilience by responding intentionally during difficult moments. Life does not test people when conditions are calm and predictable. It tests them in moments of pressure, disappointment, loss, delay, and uncertainty. These moments arrive without warning and often without fairness. What determines the direction of a life is not the absence of difficulty, but the quality of response during it. Resilience is not about being tough or emotionless. It is about responding intentionally instead of reacting impulsively. It is about choosing behavior when emotions demand control. This ability is learned and strengthened through practice. Most suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by uncontrolled reactions to those events. When something goes wrong, the mind rushes to judge, blame, panic, or escape. These reactions feel automatic, but they are habits. Habits can be changed. Intentional response begins with creating a pause between what happens and what you do next. That pause is where resilience is built. Difficult moments often trigger fear. Fear narrows attention and pushes the mind toward extremes. It imagines worst outcomes and demands immediate relief. Responding intentionally requires recognizing fear without allowing it to dictate behavior. Fear is a signal, not a command. When you treat it as information rather than authority, you regain control. Resilience grows when you accept reality as it is rather than as you wish it to be. Resistance to reality wastes energy. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means acknowledging facts clearly so you can respond effectively. Denial delays action. Complaining weakens resolve. Acceptance restores clarity. Intentional response begins with self-awareness. Notice physical sensations during stress. Tightness, shallow breathing, restlessness. These signals warn you that reaction is near. When you notice them early, you can slow down. A slower breath calms the nervous system. Calm creates space for choice. Language shapes response. The words you use internally during difficulty matter. Catastrophic language intensifies emotion. Simple, accurate language reduces it. Describe what is happening without exaggeration. This keeps the mind grounded. Resilience also requires responsibility. When something goes wrong, the instinct to blame others or circumstances may feel relieving, but it removes power. Responsibility restores agency. Ask what is within your control. Focus energy there. This shift strengthens confidence. Intentional response does not suppress emotion. It allows emotion without surrendering judgment. You can feel frustration and still act with discipline. You can feel sadness and still behave with integrity. Emotion and control can coexist. Resilient people separate events from identity. A mistake does not define worth. A setback does not define potential. When identity is attached to outcomes, failure feels personal and overwhelming. When identity is grounded in values, outcomes become temporary experiences. Difficult moments often reveal hidden expectations. When expectations go unmet, disappointment follows. Examine expectations honestly. Were they realistic? Were they communicated? Adjusting expectations reduces repeated frustration. Resilience is strengthened through perspective. Ask whether the difficulty will matter in the long term. This question does not dismiss pain. It places it in context. Context reduces emotional intensity. Intentional response requires patience. Immediate reaction feels urgent, but urgency is often false. Waiting briefly before acting improves judgment. Delayed response often prevents regret. Resilience also involves choosing constructive behavior. Ask what action moves the situation forward. Focus on solutions rather than replaying problems. Action restores momentum. Control of attention is critical. During stress, the mind fixates on what is wrong. Redirect attention to what can be done next. One small step reduces helplessness. Resilient individuals practice emotional regulation daily, not only during crises. Consistent routines, reflection, and discipline strengthen response capacity. Preparation determines performance. Difficult moments test values. Intentional response means acting according to principles even when it costs comfort. This alignment strengthens character. Each value-driven response builds self-respect. Resilience is also built through reframing. Ask what can be learned. Learning transforms adversity into growth. Growth gives meaning to hardship. Avoid dramatizing difficulty. Drama amplifies pain. Calm evaluation reduces it. Speak and think plainly. Resilience includes setting boundaries. Not every problem is yours to solve. Knowing when to step back preserves energy. Discernment prevents burnout. Intentional response also requires forgiveness. Holding resentment prolongs suffering. Forgiveness is not approval, it is release. Release frees attention for constructive action. Resilient behavior becomes easier with repetition. Each intentional response trains the mind. Over time, calm becomes default. Resilience is not isolation. Seek support when needed. Strength includes knowing limits. Honest communication prevents internal collapse. Difficult moments often disrupt routine. Re-establishing simple structure restores stability. Routine anchors behavior when emotions fluctuate. Intentional response includes caring for physical needs. Hunger, fatigue, and neglect weaken control. Physical maintenance supports mental resilience. Resilience grows through reflection after difficulty. Review what happened and how you responded. Identify improvements without self-attack. This reflection sharpens future response. Avoid seeking immediate comfort that creates long-term damage. Some coping methods soothe briefly but weaken resilience. Choose actions that preserve integrity. Resilient people do not expect fairness. They expect challenge. This expectation reduces shock and resentment. Prepared minds recover faster. Intentional response also includes gratitude, not forced positivity, but honest recognition of what remains stable. Stability grounds the mind. Resilience is strengthened by focusing on effort rather than outcome. You control effort. Outcomes vary. Effort builds confidence. Difficult moments often reveal character. Responding intentionally turns pressure into proof of growth. This proof builds trust in yourself. Resilience does not eliminate pain. It prevents pain from controlling behavior. This distinction matters. Each challenge is practice. Each response trains future responses. Growth accumulates. Resilient individuals accept that discomfort is part of progress. Avoidance weakens capacity. Engagement strengthens it. Intentional response requires humility. Admit mistakes. Adjust course. Pride delays recovery. Resilience also includes hope grounded in action. Hope without action fades. Action without hope exhausts. Balance sustains. Over time, responding intentionally changes identity. You become someone who remains steady under pressure. This steadiness attracts trust and respect. Life will continue to present difficulty. This is not a flaw. It is the condition of growth. What matters is how you meet it. Respond calmly. Act deliberately. Learn continuously. This is how resilience is built, not by avoiding difficulty, but by choosing response with discipline during it. Chapter 6c. Create focused routines that support energy, clarity, discipline. Routines shape the day more reliably than mood and more honestly than intention, and when they are designed around preserving energy, sharpening clarity, and reinforcing discipline, they create a steady foundation for meaningful work. A focused routine is a practical architecture for how attention flows through the day. It is not a rigid schedule that crushes spontaneity, but a predictable structure that reserves your best resources for the things that matter most. When routines are clear and simple, they reduce wasted decisions, protect mental bandwidth, and create room for deep work. Notice how mornings feel when there is a quiet sequence to follow. The first hour after waking is a powerful laboratory for energy management. Use it to stabilize the body and steady the mind. A slow stretch, a few conscious breaths, and a brief walk or simply standing by a window can reset the nervous system. Doing something physical before consuming information prevents the day from being hijacked by other people's priorities. The sensation of fresh air on the face or the steady rhythm of steps provides an anchor that words on a screen cannot replace. Clarity grows when thinking is externalized. Put paper or a digital note in one place and record 3 priorities for the day. Keep the list short and observable. A single sentence describing what success looks like for each priority removes ambiguity. When attention is clear, decisions are faster and fewer mistakes happen. The feeling of striking through a completed task is small but meaningful because it translates intent into evidence. Work in focused blocks that match natural attention spans. Time-boxed sessions with a single goal encourage absorption rather than scattering. During these blocks, remove visual and auditory distractions. Phone out of view, notifications silenced, and a dedicated workspace signal to the brain that this interval is reserved. At the end of each block, take a short break to move and breathe. These breaks are not interruptions, but resets that preserve energy for the next interval. Nutrition and hydration influence discipline as much as willpower. Keep simple options available that support steady energy. A light protein-rich breakfast or a balanced meal before work prevents the mid-morning slump. Drinking water deliberately becomes a rhythm that interrupts long stretches of passive sitting. Notice how the body feels after choices rather than labeling them good or bad. Sensory feedback informs wiser decisions. Evenings prepare the next morning. Create a short ritual that signals the end of the workday and the start of rest. Put away work tools, tidy the workspace, and write one sentence on what can be done tomorrow to move a priority forward. The act of closing the day in this way removes lingering tasks from the mind and makes sleep more restorative. The quiet weight of a completed brief ritual improves sleep quality and the tone of the next morning. Discipline is strengthened through visible commitments. Write a concise statement that describes the key part of the routine you will protect no matter what. Make it something measurable and non-negotiable for trial periods, such as 30 days. When commitments are public, share them with a trusted friend or partner who can ask about progress. Accountability is a mirror, not a punishment. It simply reflects whether words match action. Design the environment to invite the habits you want. Place a journal and pen where they are easy to reach. Remove charging cables from the bedroom. Avoid keeping social apps in the most accessible place, and create a dedicated corner for focused effort. Tiny changes to the surroundings reduce friction and make discipline the path of least resistance. The subtle weight of an orderly environment lowers stress and clarifies intention. Prioritize single tasking over multitasking. Focused routines should limit context switching. When attention is split, work quality drops and time stretches. Choose one important task for each focused block and defend it. The deep satisfaction of completing an undivided task builds quiet momentum and trains the brain to prefer focus. Clarity requires regular reduction of unnecessary input. Schedule specific times for email messages, social feeds, and news. Outside of those windows, keep notifications off. The cognitive cost of constant partial attention is real. By limiting exposure to information, you allow more space for deliberate thinking. The relief that follows is palpable when the mind is no longer pulled in dozens of small directions. Movement is not incidental to discipline. Short sessions of deliberate movement interrupt sedentary stretches and restore alertness. A sequence of bodyweight exercises, a brisk walk around the block, or a few minutes of mobility work refreshes circulation and sharpens perception. Physical activity is a simple tool to regulate mood and sustain focus. A sense of control grows when choices are simplified the night before. Choose clothing, prepare a small bag with essentials, and decide the first task for the morning. Making small decisions ahead removes early friction and preserves willpower for larger challenges. This tiny preparation changes the texture of the day because it reduces chaotic starts. Clarity deepens when reflection is regular. At the end of a focused week, spend time reviewing what worked, what drained energy, and what needs to change. Use concrete data such as hours spent in focused blocks or the number of priorities completed rather than vague impressions. The discipline of measured review produces better adjustments than guessing does. Protect energy by setting boundaries around time and people. Communicate those limits clearly and calmly. Declining opportunities that contradict priorities is an act of preservation, not resistance. The firmness of consistent boundaries creates more dependable energy for what matters. Practice simple breathing techniques to steady reactive moments. A few slow exhalations or a counted breath sequence reduces tension and improves decision quality. These short interventions are nearly invisible to others, but profoundly useful for staying composed during demanding moments. Cultivate a short reading habit that sharpens clarity and builds competence. Even 10 pages a day of well-chosen material accumulates insight over weeks. Choose texts that are directly relevant to present priorities rather than random consumption. The content you absorb shapes the decisions you make. Routines should allow for recovery days. A single focused week followed by intentional rest prevents burnout. On recovery days, engage activities that restore energy, curiosity, and perspective. These days are part of the plan, not a deviation from it. Measure progress by simple indicators that matter to your work. Track focused hours blocks completed or the completion rate of priority tasks. Quantitative evidence reduces anxiety about productivity and highlights where routines need adjustment. The data need not be elaborate, but it must be consistent and honest. When motivation is low, rely on visible cues, not feelings. Prepare a small ritual that signals start time, such as lighting a lamp or playing a short piece of music. These cues anchor action independent of mood and create a predictable mental transition into work. Discipline thrives on repetition but flourishes with small variation. Adjust the order of tasks, occasionally change the location of focused work, or vary the type of movement you do. Variation prevents boredom without sacrificing structure. Keep language simple and directive when defining the routine. Replace vague intentions with clear commands, such as write for 30 minutes or move for 15 minutes. Direct phrasing reduces negotiation and increases follow-through. Teach others your routine if appropriate. Explaining a process clarifies it further and helps integrate it into social contexts. When family or colleagues understand the pattern, they can support it rather than inadvertently disrupt it. Accept that some days will not conform to the ideal structure. Adaptation within a routine is not failure. Reduce expectations for those days. Focus on the smallest reliable action that preserves continuity and return to fuller practice the next day. A focused routine is a tool to protect attention and energy from the inevitable noise of life. It is a practical decision to trade chaotic freedom for directed freedom. The reward is the ability to show up reliably for work that matters, with a mind that is clear, a body that is ready, and a discipline that is calm. Commit to a simple experiment for the coming month. Choose 2 anchors, morning and evening, and 1 focused work block pattern, and observe how energy and clarity change. Adjust gently based on what the evidence shows and keep the routine minimal enough to sustain. Over time, the accumulation of these disciplined choices produces a steady sense of competence and quiet confidence in what can be achieved each day. Chapter 70. Practice daily reflection to adjust actions toward purpose. Quiet moments spent examining the day sharpen judgment and steer action more reliably than motivation or good intentions. Reflection is the practice of returning attention inward with curiosity and honesty to see what worked, what failed, and what needs to change. When practiced regularly, it becomes a compass that keeps effort pointed toward meaningful outcomes. The process is simple but rarely automatic. It must be trained like any other skill and woven into daily life so that correction happens before small errors become habits. Begin by reserving a short window each evening for a focused review. 5 to 15 minutes is enough to generate useful insight if the activity is intentional. Close the day by answering 3 direct questions in a notebook or a notes app. What did I do that moved me closer to my purpose? What distracted me or wasted time? What one adjustment would improve tomorrow? These questions force clarity because they demand specific actions rather than vague feelings. Writing the answers transforms fleeting impressions into concrete evidence. Use sensory detail to ground reflection. Describe what you saw, heard, or felt when a difficult moment occurred, noting where your attention went, which words felt heavy, and how your body reacted creates a fuller record than thought alone. Over time, these sensory clues reveal triggers, habits, and patterns that thought alone misses. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget, and including that information makes change more reliable. Record outcomes and the actions that produced them. When reviewing a task, note the decision that led to each result and the moment you could have changed direction. This practice identifies leverage points where small different choices produce disproportionate benefit. Allocate special attention to the decisions made under pressure, because those are the moments that shape character. The aim is not to punish, but to learn which moves create forward motion and which moves cost energy without return. Create a simple habit of choosing one corrective action to implement the next day. Reflection without adjustment becomes intellectual exercise rather than transformation. Pick a single focused change that is both practical and measurable. If mornings feel chaotic, decide to prepare 1 item the night before. If conversations become tense, practice a breathing pause before responding. Making a small targeted change increases the likelihood of follow-through and compounds over weeks. Track progress with a minimal system. A short weekly log that records completed priorities, time spent in focused work, and one emotional observation provides enough data to spot trends. Use this information to set a single priority for the upcoming week that advances purpose. Data does not have to be elaborate. In fact, simple, consistent metrics are more useful than complex tracking that drains time and energy. Include gratitude as part of reflection, but avoid turning it into shallow positivity. Note 2 concrete things that went well and why they mattered. This practice balances critique with recognition and guards against demoralizing self-scrutiny. Recognizing effective choices reinforces identity because evidence accumulates of the way you act rather than how you imagine yourself acting. Adopt a habit of questioning assumptions. After a week of action, identify beliefs that influenced your choices. Which assumptions were helpful and which limited possibilities? Many plans stall because hidden beliefs about capacity, time, or deservedness limit effort. Consciously testing those beliefs with small experiments loosens false constraints and expands practical options. Use reflection to protect boundaries. Notice where energy leaked into obligations that were not yours or where time was surrendered to urgent but non-essential demands. Name the moment when a boundary was not upheld and decide on a clear next step to prevent repetition. Boundary maintenance is a skill learned through small, consistent corrections rather than grand proclamations. Keep language precise and accountable when writing about mistakes. Replace vague phrases, such as "I did poorly," with descriptive statements like "I deferred the most important task until evening because I prioritized responding to messages." This specificity highlights the cause and points directly to the corrective action. Precision in language reduces shame and increases agency. Build an evening ritual that signals the brain to shift from doing to reflecting. The ritual could include dimming lights, clearing the workspace, and sitting for a short period to review the day's notes. The physical act of closing tools and documenting outcomes creates psychological separation between work and rest and improves sleep quality while preserving continuity for the next day. Schedule a deeper weekly review that complements nightly checks. Use a longer session to compare intentions with results to reallocate time and to reset priorities for the coming week. In that session, identify one habit to strengthen and one to weaken. This focused trade-off approach prevents accumulation of commitments and ensures continual refinement. Reflection should also examine how interactions with others affected progress. Note conversations that advanced purpose and those that created confusion or delay. Decide how to follow up with people to clarify expectations, provide necessary updates, or protect time. Effective communication reduces repeated friction and frees resources for meaningful work. Practice mental rehearsal during reflection to prepare for likely challenges. Imagine a demanding conversation or a deadline and run through a calm, effective response. Rehearsal reduces reactivity by familiarizing the mind with constructive options. When the real moment arrives, the path forward feels more available. Use reflection to evaluate energy patterns. Record times of high focus, low energy, and subtle fatigue. Adjust schedules to take advantage of peak performance periods for demanding work and reserve low energy windows for administrative or restorative tasks. Responding to natural rhythms increases output and reduces the cost of effort. Include questions that probe alignment with long-term purpose. Weekly ask whether current efforts still reflect the larger direction and which tasks can be removed because they no longer contribute. Pruning work is as important as adding it because cluttered focus undermines impact. Keep reflections short when time is limited. A fast check-in with 2 lines about what worked and 1 line about the next improvement preserves continuity on busy days. Short, disciplined practice is better than sporadic marathon sessions. Hold yourself to truth without cruelty. When noting failures, avoid language that assigns permanent identity. Describe actions, concretely accept responsibility, and map a precise next step. This balance between honesty and compassion sustains stamina and avoids destructive rumination. Use tools to support reflection but do not outsource judgment. Apps and templates help capture data but the value emerges from thoughtful interpretation. Stay personally connected to the conclusions rather than relying on automated summaries. Invite feedback selectively. Periodic outside perspective from a mentor or colleague can reveal blind spots. When sharing reflections, ask for observation, not solutions. External feedback is most useful when it complements personal insight and does not replace it. Practice adapting plans based on reflection rather than forcing consistency for appearances. If a method repeatedly fails, accept that it is time for change and design a small experiment to test alternatives. Flexibility guided by evidence is discipline, not weakness. Make reflection sensory and concrete by including brief artifacts, such as a photo of a completed task, a screenshot of time spent, or a short voice note about a conversation. Physical evidence reduces the fog of memory and provides reliable material for future learning. Celebrate small confirmations of progress found in reflection. When a pattern shifts toward greater focus, note it and allow the observation to reinforce future behavior. Celebrations need not be elaborate. A moment of recognition is sufficient to consolidate new habits. Allow reflection to inform long-term planning. Monthly syntheses of daily notes reveal strategic adjustments that quarterly goal setting can incorporate. This cadence turns daily learning into structural improvements rather than isolated insights. Practice ending reflection with a calm directive for the next morning. Write one sentence that specifies the first meaningful action to take upon waking. Beginning the day with an immediate purposeful task reduces the chance that attention will scatter in the opening hour. Reflection is not anti-action. It exists to make action smarter, faster, and more sustainable. When practiced with discipline and honesty, it shortens the distance between intention and outcome and builds cumulative advantage through continual correction. Embrace the discomfort that accurate appraisal sometimes brings, because the alternative is repeating small, avoidable mistakes. Over time, the habit of daily reflection creates a sharper mind, steadier emotions, and clearer priorities that guide each day toward the life that matters. Chapter 80. Strengthen self-trust through promises kept each day. Trust in oneself is built quietly, gradually, and deliberately. It is formed not through bold declarations or rare heroic actions, but through the small, consistent fulfillment of promises made to yourself each day. Every promise you keep, no matter how minor it seems, strengthens the foundation of integrity within. Conversely, every promise broken weakens the inner voice that guides decision-making and confidence. Self-trust is the currency of purpose, the internal agreement that what you say aligns with what you do. Without it, motivation wavers, decisions falter, and progress slows. With it, clarity, courage, and discipline grow naturally. Begin with simple promises. Do not attempt to overhaul your life in a single day. Start with one commitment that matters and can be reliably fulfilled. It may be a promise to write for 15 minutes, to take a short walk, or to prepare the first item for the next day. Completing this small promise proves to yourself that action follows intention. That proof is invisible to the outside world but transforms internal dialogue. Record promises in a tangible way. Write them in a notebook, on sticky notes, or in a digital app. Physical or visual evidence reinforces the commitment. The act of documenting transforms a fleeting thought into a contract with yourself. Review these notes throughout the day to maintain awareness and avoid letting external distractions override your internal agreement. Prioritize consistency over ambition. A single promise fulfilled every day carries more weight than 10 promises partially executed. The brain internalizes repeated behavior faster than sporadic effort. This repetition builds expectation and habit. Over time, fulfilling promises becomes a default response rather than a deliberate effort, reinforcing self-trust through automatic action. Avoid vague promises. Ambiguity allows avoidance. Instead of saying, "I will work on my project," define a specific measurable action such as, "I will complete one section of my report before noon." Concrete promises remove negotiation and provide a clear standard for evaluation. This clarity reduces mental friction and ensures that self-trust is earned, not assumed. Notice the internal signals when a promise is at risk of being broken. Hesitation, distraction, rationalization, or avoidance are indicators. Recognizing these signals early allows corrective action. Pause, acknowledge the temptation, and return to the commitment. The process of confronting temptation and choosing fulfillment strengthens resilience and reinforces trust in your own reliability. Understand that promises to yourself are as valid as promises to others. Internal agreements carry consequences. Breaking a promise diminishes confidence and self-respect. Treat each promise with seriousness. This does not create rigidity or fear, but cultivates a quiet authority over your own behavior. Intentional follow-through requires preparation. Anticipate challenges to keeping promises. Set aside necessary resources, allocate time, and arrange conditions to support completion. Forethought increases likelihood of success and reduces the friction between intention and action. A prepared mind finds it easier to honor commitments consistently. Reflection amplifies the impact of promises kept. At the end of the day, review which commitments were fulfilled and which were not. Analyze why unfulfilled promises were broken. Avoid judgmental language. Use observation to identify patterns and refine future commitments. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom and accelerates the growth of self-trust. Start each morning with a small promise as a calibration for the day. Completing a morning promise signals competence and readiness. It establishes momentum that carries through more demanding commitments later. Early fulfillment strengthens belief in your capacity to act with integrity consistently. Account for external variables, but do not allow them to justify broken promises. While circumstances may shift, your response defines self-trust. Focus on what is within control. Adjust the approach if necessary, but ensure the promise is honored in some form. Adaptation strengthens skill without eroding trust. Track progress over time. Maintain a simple log of promises and fulfillment. Observing the accumulation of kept commitments reinforces confidence and creates evidence that reliability is not theoretical but actual. Patterns become visible, and self-trust grows through quantifiable demonstration. Incorporate promises that strengthen multiple dimensions of life. Physical, mental, emotional, and relational promises all contribute. For example, a promise to move daily maintains energy and focus, while a promise to reflect each evening maintains clarity. Diverse commitments expand the domain of trust, reinforcing resilience across circumstances. Allow mistakes to be corrective rather than destructive. A broken promise is a signal, not a verdict. Identify the cause, adjust conditions, and make a renewed commitment. The integrity of self-trust lies not in perfection, but in the resolve to return to alignment without excuse. Recognize that each promise kept builds cumulative power. The impact of daily fulfillment compounds over weeks and months. Small actions may appear trivial, but their accumulation establishes a robust sense of capability and authority over one's choices. Avoid overloading with excessive promises. Too many commitments dilute focus and increase the risk of failure. Self-trust grows fastest when each promise is deliberate and meaningful. Depth matters more than breadth. Choose commitments that reflect core priorities and purpose, rather than fleeting desires. Integrate sensory and temporal anchors to reinforce commitments. Begin and end tasks with deliberate attention, noting how completing the promise feels physically and mentally. This creates a neural association between action and integrity that strengthens automatic follow-through over time. Observe the emotional response to fulfilled promises. Confidence, calm, and clarity are natural results. Let these sensations reinforce behavior. The feedback loop of trust is not abstract, it is tangible in experience. Awareness of this reinforcement makes it easier to choose action even when motivation wavers. Use incremental scaling to strengthen capacity. Start with manageable promises and increase difficulty gradually. Each fulfilled commitment serves as evidence of capability, preparing the mind and body for more demanding obligations without risking erosion of trust. Link promises to values for coherence. A promise aligned with personal principles carries more weight internally. For example, if growth is a core value, a daily commitment to learn or practice skill directly strengthens identity and self-trust simultaneously. Promote accountability through observation, not punishment. Sharing commitments with a trusted partner or mentor can reinforce follow-through, but the primary focus remains internal. External acknowledgement supports internal authority rather than replacing it. Practice deliberate recovery when a promise is broken. Replace judgment with corrective action. Repairing alignment promptly prevents erosion of trust and maintains forward momentum. The act of recovery itself reinforces resilience and integrity. Anchor larger goals in a series of small promises. Rather than attempting monumental achievements at once, break them into daily agreements that gradually accumulate into significant progress. This strategy ensures that self-trust grows alongside competence and measurable success. Avoid relying on emotion to maintain commitments. Feelings fluctuate and are unreliable indicators. Treat promises as contracts independent of mood. Completion is a choice grounded in intention and identity rather than fleeting sentiment. Celebrate evidence of reliability quietly. Acknowledgement does not require extravagance, but should reinforce awareness of capability. Observing that promises are consistently kept builds a mental baseline of trust that supports risk-taking, decision-making, and long-term planning. Self-trust is a cumulative force. Each promise kept compounds. Each broken promise reduces momentum. Treat the process as a daily practice, a calibration of integrity, and a refinement of capacity. Over time, habitual fulfillment establishes an inner authority that guides action decisively, calmly, and reliably. The power of daily promises lies not in what others see but in what you know about yourself. Consistency transforms uncertainty into confidence. Intentional completion of small agreements becomes the engine that drives discipline, resilience, and alignment with purpose. By committing to promises each day, self-trust grows steadily until it becomes an unshakable foundation for all meaningful action. Chapter 19. Replace distraction with deliberate choices that respect purpose. Distraction is the silent thief of purpose. It moves quietly into daily life, fragmenting attention, diluting effort, and eroding progress. Every time the mind shifts to unimportant stimuli, energy leaks and momentum slows. To live with intention, distractions must be replaced with deliberate choices that honor values and long-term goals. This process is not about denial or rigidity, but about consciously deciding where attention goes. Clarity, energy, and focus are cultivated through repeated acts of intentional selection. Each choice to prioritize what matters over what is merely tempting strengthens the internal authority that governs behavior. Begin by identifying the most common sources of distraction. These may be notifications, unplanned conversations, social media, passive entertainment, or reactive habits like compulsively checking messages. Observe not only the presence of distraction but also the triggers that invite it. Are you bored, uncertain, anxious, or avoiding discomfort? Recognizing the why behind the action reveals leverage points for replacement rather than just suppression. Once identified, replace the distraction with an action that aligns with purpose. When the urge to scroll arises, read a short passage from an educational text, practice a focused breathing exercise, or take a purposeful step toward a daily goal. Replacement works best when it addresses the same need. If distraction arises from fatigue, choose rest or movement rather than attempting forced productivity. If it arises from anxiety, deliberate reflection or journaling can redirect energy constructively. Design the environment to minimize distraction and support intentional choice. Physical space, digital interfaces, and social settings all influence attention. Remove visual and auditory cues that tempt the mind away from meaningful work. Arrange surroundings so that desired actions are easier to initiate than undesired ones. When the environment nudges toward purpose, effort is conserved and consistency increases naturally. Set explicit boundaries around time and attention. Allocate defined periods for focused work and restorative breaks. Label these intervals clearly and honor them rigorously. Boundaries signal to the mind that some activities are not optional, creating predictable structure that reduces the cognitive burden of deciding moment by moment. Consistency in these boundaries trains attention to follow deliberate priorities automatically. Practice micro-decisions to reinforce purpose alignment. Every small choice, from what to read next to whether to engage in conversation, carries weight in shaping momentum. Pause before action and ask, does this move me toward what matters most? This habit of rapid evaluation becomes effortless over time and transforms the landscape of daily life from reactive to intentional. Track patterns of distraction and deliberate response. Note the frequency, context, and triggers for attention drift, and observe which replacement actions work best. Consistent observation turns guesswork into strategy. Evidence guides adaptation and strengthens self-awareness, making each deliberate choice easier and more effective. Measurement is not judgment, it is a tool for refinement. Replace multitasking with single task focus. When attention is split between competing demands, performance suffers, stress increases, and mistakes multiply. Deliberate engagement with one task at a time maximizes energy and creates the satisfaction of completion. Deep work is a product of deliberate focus, and repeated small wins compound into lasting momentum. Integrate digital hygiene into deliberate attention. Notifications, banners, and autoplay features hijack awareness. Set devices to silent, disable alerts, and schedule dedicated times for communication. The act of controlling technology demonstrates self-mastery and reinforces the habit of prioritizing what matters over reactive impulses. Replace passive consumption with active creation. Watching content, scrolling feeds, or passively absorbing information can feel productive, but rarely aligns with purpose. Swap even small periods of passive input for deliberate action. Write, plan, organize, practice a skill, or engage in meaningful conversation. Over time, these cumulative choices amplify competence, confidence, and tangible progress. Anchor deliberate choices to values for cohesion. When an action clearly reflects what matters most, it is easier to resist temptation. Conversely, choices that contradict values create internal friction, draining energy and motivation. Explicitly connect decisions to principles. This alignment strengthens both focus and self-respect. Use reflective pauses to evaluate attention throughout the day. Short interruptions of 1 to 2 minutes for conscious assessment prevent minor distractions from becoming habitual. During these pauses, check if current action serves purpose, and if not, consciously redirect. Small corrections compound into a disciplined pattern of choice. Replace reactive habits with planned rituals. Automatic behaviors often create distraction because they bypass conscious thought. Introduce structured micro-rituals for routine tasks, starting the day with priority setting, taking mid-morning reflection breaks, and reviewing progress at the evening. Rituals reduce friction in choosing purpose, aligned actions, and maintain momentum with minimal effort. Prepare for predictable high-risk distraction periods. Identify times of day when focus typically fades and implement pre-emptive strategies. Brief movement, hydration, a walk, or a short reflective pause. Pre-emptive alignment reduces the likelihood that attention will drift toward low-value activity. Practice saying no with clarity and firmness. External requests and opportunities often appear urgent but may not serve purpose. Deliberate choice sometimes means refusing what is easy or tempting in favor of what matters. Saying no strengthens internal authority and protects energy for meaningful action. Visual reminders support deliberate focus. Simple notes, aligned screensavers, or sticky reminders can serve as cues for intentional action. These signals act as anchors that redirect attention back to purpose without relying on willpower alone. External cues reinforce internal habits, cultivate awareness of mental drift. Notice when mind-wandering or emotional impulses hijack focus. Label the distraction without judgment, and return attention to deliberate action. Repeated practice strengthens the capacity to remain present and intentional despite internal noise. Replace urgent trivialities with prioritized tasks. When reactive habits dominate, effort goes to what seems pressing rather than what is meaningful. Pause, evaluate importance, and redirect energy to actions that advance long-term goals. The accumulation of prioritized choices defines progress over time. Incorporate recovery and rest into deliberate planning. Attention and energy are finite. Choosing restorative action prevents reactive drift caused by fatigue or stress. Intentional rest is not avoidance, it is preparation for sustained focus and clarity. Deliberate choices extend to social interactions. Engage intentionally in conversations and relationships that reflect values and long-term objectives. Limit engagement in discussions that drain energy or lead away from purpose. Attention directed toward meaningful connection reinforces identity and preserves mental resources. Celebrate successful redirection from distraction to purposeful action. Acknowledge small victories to reinforce internal feedback loops. Recognition strengthens self-trust and motivates continued adherence to deliberate choices. Positive reinforcement accelerates habit formation and internalizes alignment. Replace criticism of oneself for distraction with learning analysis. Identify why attention wandered and what conditions contributed. This reflective approach converts failure into insight and supports more effective deliberate action in the future. Growth emerges from evidence-based adjustment rather than shame. Make deliberate choices habitual by embedding them into the rhythm of daily life. Over time, repeated decisions create a default orientation toward purpose. Action becomes automatic in alignment with intention, reducing internal friction and conserving mental energy. Focus attention on the present task rather than outcome anxiety. Purposeful choice is made in the moment, not in anticipation or regret. Concentrated action produces higher quality results and reduces mental fatigue caused by distraction. Replace comparison or envy with actionable focus. Observing others can trigger distraction and self-doubt. Shift attention to what can be done personally to advance objectives. Action grounded in purpose is both energizing and stabilizing. Intentional choice is a practice, not perfection. Some distractions will occur, and some impulses will be followed. Return immediately to purposeful action without judgment. The pattern of consistent redirection builds skill, capacity, and confidence in self-mastery. Over time, replacing distraction with deliberate choices transforms identity. You become someone who naturally prioritizes what matters, acts with discipline, and navigates life with clarity and focus. Momentum grows quietly but inexorably, proving that purpose can guide every moment when attention is cultivated consciously. Chapter 100: Design meaningful goals that serve growth and contribution. Meaningful goals are the architecture of a purposeful life. They provide direction, clarify priorities, and create momentum. Without goals grounded in growth and contribution, effort often dissipates into aimless activity. To design goals that matter, begin with an honest evaluation of your current capacities and the areas where development is needed. Consider skills, knowledge, habits, and emotional resilience. Identify the gaps that, if addressed, would allow tangible progress in both personal growth and the ability to positively impact others. Growth-oriented goals are those that stretch capability without creating unrealistic pressure. Contribution-oriented goals are those that extend beyond self-interest, benefiting people, community, or a larger cause. Goals that combine these two dimensions align effort with significance. Start by writing down clear outcomes you want to achieve in the next 6 months, year, and 3 years. These should be specific, measurable, and observable. Vague intentions like, get better at writing, lack structure and cannot be assessed reliably. Instead, define what improvement looks like in concrete terms. For writing, it could be completing a certain number of pages each week, submitting work to a journal, or finishing a book draft. The act of specificity transforms aspiration into actionable targets. Break larger objectives into smaller, incremental steps. Goals are easier to pursue when they are decomposed into practical components that can be accomplished daily or weekly. Incremental steps provide repeated opportunities for achievement, reinforcing motivation and discipline. Each small step is evidence of capability, and cumulative progress builds confidence and momentum over time. These steps should always connect back to the larger purpose to maintain alignment with meaning. Examine the value behind each goal. Ask why achieving it matters. Goals that lack a meaningful why often fade under pressure. When the purpose is clear, obstacles become challenges rather than deterrents. Connecting to the value behind the goal creates intrinsic motivation that sustains action beyond fleeting inspiration. The reason should address both personal development and the impact on others. When a goal benefits only oneself, it may provide temporary satisfaction. When it also serves others, satisfaction becomes deeper and more enduring. Establish criteria for measuring progress. Quantitative measures such as hours spent, tasks completed, or milestones reached provide clarity. Qualitative evaluation, like reflecting on improved skill, resilience, or influence, adds context and depth. Combined, these measures allow precise understanding of advancement. Regular review ensures alignment and informs necessary adjustments. Measurement is a tool for learning and refinement, not judgment. Create a timeline for each goal that balances urgency with sustainability. Deadlines focus effort, but should allow flexibility for unforeseen challenges. Compressing too much into a short period can lead to frustration and burnout. Stretching too long delays momentum. Design timelines that support consistent, intentional effort while maintaining energy and clarity. Anticipate potential obstacles and plan responses. Difficulties are inevitable in meaningful work. Consider both internal obstacles, such as doubt or procrastination, and external ones, such as resource limitations or competing priorities. Developing proactive strategies, fallback plans, and coping mechanisms ensures resilience. Preparing in advance converts uncertainty into manageable variables, keeping action aligned with purpose even under pressure. Link goals to daily practices. Each goal should translate into specific routines or tasks that can be executed consistently. When daily effort reflects the larger objective, the accumulation of small, deliberate actions produces significant results over time. Without daily integration, goals remain abstract and disconnected from actual progress. Aligning routine with objectives converts intention into habit and builds a natural rhythm of achievement. Ensure that goals challenge complacency without creating unrealistic pressure. The balance between stretch and attainability strengthens growth. Goals that are too easy fail to build capacity. Goals that are too difficult erode confidence. Evaluate whether each goal requires effort beyond current comfort, yet remains within the realm of achievable with focus, persistence, and discipline. Growth is built in this tension between capacity and challenge. Include contribution as a guiding factor for meaningful goals. Consider how progress supports others, enhances community, or extends value beyond personal gain. Contribution-based goals deepen purpose, reinforcing commitment and aligning action with broader significance. When goals impact others positively, effort becomes inherently motivating because achievement produces both internal and external reward. Practice reflective review to ensure goals remain relevant. Circumstances, knowledge, and priorities change over time. Periodically revisit goals to confirm that they still align with growth and contribution. Adjust, refine, or replace objectives that no longer serve purpose. Reflection maintains relevance and prevents wasted effort, keeping energy directed toward meaningful achievement. Maintain accountability through self-monitoring or external support. Sharing goals with a mentor, coach, or trusted peer can reinforce adherence. Accountability does not reduce autonomy, it strengthens resolve by providing feedback, perspective, and consistency. Tracking completion, noting progress, and discussing adjustments fosters discipline and deepens insight. Integrate flexibility to allow adaptation without losing direction. Life presents unexpected challenges. Goals should be robust yet adaptable to changing circumstances. When external conditions shift, adjust the approach rather than abandoning the objective. Flexibility preserves momentum, ensures continued relevance, and demonstrates practical resilience. Focus attention on one or two high-impact goals at a time. Dispersing effort across too many objectives dilutes energy, reduces clarity, and hinders measurable progress. Prioritize goals that carry the greatest potential for growth and contribution. Concentration intensifies learning, reinforces habit formation, and amplifies impact. Connect short-term achievements to long-term purpose. Each completed milestone should be seen as both evidence of capability and a step toward broader contribution. This perspective maintains motivation, fosters pride without arrogance, and reinforces the cumulative power of deliberate effort. Viewing goals as part of a continuum strengthens both persistence and vision. Use precise language to define outcomes. Replace vague desires with specific statements that describe exactly what success looks like. Improve physical fitness becomes perform strength training 3 times weekly and complete a 10-kilometer run in 3 months. Clarity eliminates ambiguity, focuses effort, and ensures that progress can be objectively recognized. Incorporate daily reflection into goal pursuit. Each day ask what actions advanced the objective, what blocked progress, and what adjustments are required. Daily reflection aligns immediate activity with larger goals and prevents drift. Incremental course correction strengthens momentum and maintains focus on meaningful outcomes. Embed intentional reward and recognition mechanisms. Acknowledge milestones reached, skills acquired, and contributions made. These rewards reinforce behavior, sustain motivation, and create positive associations with disciplined action. Recognition need not be elaborate. A simple note of acknowledgement reinforces commitment and encourages continuity. Link learning directly to goal achievement. Identify what skills, knowledge, or habits must develop to succeed. Commit to acquiring these systematically. Growth-focused goals are inseparable from learning, and deliberate acquisition accelerates both performance and personal development. Visualize practical outcomes rather than abstract desire. Envision what success looks like in observable, actionable terms. This strengthens commitment, clarifies pathways, and reduces reliance on fleeting motivation. Visualization acts as a cognitive map, guiding deliberate choices and reinforcing persistence. Sustain momentum by balancing effort and rest. Overworking in pursuit of goals creates diminishing returns. Design periods of intense focus alternated with intentional recovery to maintain clarity, energy, and long-term resilience. Thoughtful pacing ensures goals serve growth rather than exhaust capacity. Finally, recognize that meaningful goals are not just about personal advancement. They are instruments to develop capability, demonstrate integrity, and produce positive influence. Purposeful goals cultivate skill, expand potential, and leave tangible benefits for oneself and others. Each goal designed with growth and contribution in mind transforms action into significance and effort into impact. Chapter 11. Measure progress honestly using simple weekly check-ins. Measuring progress is one of the most overlooked but powerful practices for creating lasting growth and maintaining alignment with purpose. Without regular assessment, effort often disperses, momentum fades, and the true trajectory of action remains invisible. Honest measurement is not about perfection, judgment, or comparison to others. It is a tool for awareness, adjustment, and reinforcement. Weekly check-ins provide a manageable rhythm to evaluate what has been achieved, identify obstacles, and set clear intentions for the coming days. The process is simple, practical, and transformative when applied consistently. Begin by choosing a specific time each week dedicated solely to reflection and evaluation. This period should be uninterrupted, free from distractions, and long enough to cover meaningful assessment, typically 20 to 45 minutes. Treat it as a commitment to yourself, a contract in which honesty and clarity take priority over comfort or ego. The consistency of timing is crucial. It trains the mind to expect evaluation as part of the natural rhythm of life, reducing resistance and increasing the likelihood of honest observation. Identify clear categories to measure. These may include personal growth, relationships, productivity, health, emotional resilience, learning, and contribution. Select the areas most aligned with your purpose and long-term goals. Narrow focus ensures that assessment is actionable rather than overwhelming. Each category should be evaluated on tangible outcomes and observable actions rather than vague impressions or fleeting emotions. Record measurable outcomes for each category. For productivity, note tasks completed versus tasks planned. For learning, document pages read, skills practiced, or lessons applied. For health, track exercise, sleep, or nutrition in simple terms. For relationships, consider meaningful interactions, support offered, or communication clarity. Recording data provides concrete evidence that can be analyzed objectively rather than relying solely on memory or subjective feeling. This evidence grounds reflection in reality and prevents misperception from skewing judgment. Assess alignment with larger goals. Each action or result should be viewed in the context of purpose. Ask whether the week's efforts advanced growth, strengthened skill, or created positive impact. Misalignment is not a failure, but a signal for adjustment. Noticing divergence between activity and intention allows small corrections to accumulate before patterns of inefficiency solidify. Include evaluation of effort as well as results. Some weeks may show less output than desired due to external factors, yet high-quality effort was applied. Recognizing consistent effort reinforces self-trust, encourages resilience, and maintains motivation. Focusing solely on outcomes risks neglecting the importance of sustained disciplined action, which compounds over time into measurable achievement. Identify obstacles encountered during the week. Note circumstances, habits, or internal states that impeded progress. Recording these challenges provides insight into patterns that can be addressed systematically. Ask what changes, support, or strategies would reduce these obstacles in the future. Using obstacles as data rather than as excuses transforms problems into opportunities for improvement. Evaluate emotional and mental states alongside tangible outcomes. Weekly assessment is not purely operational. It includes reflection on focus, clarity, motivation, and energy management. Understanding how mental and emotional conditions influence productivity and growth informs adjustments to routines, rest periods, and attention management strategies. This holistic approach ensures that progress is sustainable rather than reactive or forced. Set 1 to 3 specific adjustments for the following week based on the review. These changes should be precise, actionable, and realistic. For example, shifting work blocks to times of peak energy, eliminating low-value commitments, or dedicating time to develop a specific skill. Incremental refinement produces compounding improvement. By choosing limited, focused adjustments, consistency is maintained and overwhelm avoided. Track patterns over multiple weeks. Simple trends, such as increasing completion rates, improved clarity, or enhanced energy management, reveal long-term progress that may not be obvious day to day. Trends provide perspective, showing that effort is cumulative and reinforcing the value of disciplined action. Conversely, persistent negative patterns indicate structural changes are necessary, not merely increased willpower. Maintain honesty above all. Avoid inflating success or minimizing failures to preserve comfort or pride. Authentic assessment builds self-trust and establishes a realistic foundation for decision-making. Deception, even subtle, erodes insight, slows progress, and fosters misguided habits. Objective honesty is a cornerstone of effective self-improvement. Integrate qualitative notes into the check-in. Beyond numbers, capture reflections on lessons learned, insights gained, and moments of meaningful contribution. Qualitative evaluation enhances understanding of subtle but significant developments that numbers alone cannot convey. This balanced approach ensures that growth is measured in both performance and personal depth. Use weekly check-ins to reinforce priorities. Reviewing actions against overarching goals highlights tasks or behaviors that should receive continued focus. Repetition of priorities strengthens clarity, reduces distraction, and ensures energy is applied to meaningful outcomes. It provides a course correction mechanism that maintains alignment even when daily decisions may drift. Visualize progress during the review. Reflect on the tangible impact of completed work, skill development, and contributions made to others. Visualization reinforces motivation, demonstrating that effort produces results. Experiencing progress in this way, even retrospectively, strengthens commitment and encourages continued disciplined action. Incorporate accountability mechanisms if helpful. Sharing weekly reflections with a mentor, coach, or trusted peer increases commitment, clarifies insights, and provides constructive feedback. External accountability complements internal assessment by offering perspective, validation, and reinforcement, making evaluation both thorough and sustainable. Reflect on use of time. Evaluate whether time was spent in ways that reflect purpose and intention. Identify instances where time was lost or misallocated and consider structural adjustments to routines, scheduling, or task prioritization. Time is the most finite resource, and intentional evaluation preserves it for meaningful action. Adjust strategies rather than outcomes when necessary. If results are falling short, consider modifying approach rather than abandoning the goal. Strategies include changing techniques, improving focus, acquiring new knowledge, or reallocating resources. Flexible adaptation based on evidence ensures that progress continues steadily even under changing circumstances. Celebrate evidence of achievement. Recognize completed tasks, skill gains, or positive influence. Celebration does not mean indulgence. It is acknowledgement of alignment between intention and action. This reinforcement strengthens intrinsic motivation and makes it easier to sustain momentum in the following week. Maintain a simple record keeping system. Overcomplicated tracking undermines consistency. Use a notebook, spreadsheet, or app to log outcomes, reflections, and adjustments. Simplicity ensures that weekly check-ins remain efficient, repeatable, and reliable. The goal is insight, not administrative burden. End each weekly check-in by defining the first meaningful action for the upcoming week. This immediate step ensures that momentum carries forward from reflection into purposeful action. Beginning with a deliberate choice prevents drift and establishes tone for the entire week. Recognize that weekly check-ins are iterative. They are not a single evaluation but a recurring mechanism for growth. Repetition accumulates understanding, reinforces discipline, and strengthens the alignment between daily actions and long-term purpose. Over time, the practice builds clarity, efficiency, and self-trust that compounds across weeks and months. By measuring progress honestly through simple weekly check-ins, effort becomes visible, priorities sharpen, and decisions gain precision. This practice turns reflection into actionable insight, strengthens self-trust, and ensures that each week contributes meaningfully to growth and contribution. Consistency in measurement transforms ordinary effort into deliberate advancement, producing tangible, lasting results while keeping purpose at the center of action. Chapter 12. I review failures calmly to extract lessons and adjust plans. Failure is an inevitable part of growth and an essential component of lasting progress. It is not a verdict on character or intelligence but feedback on action, strategy, and execution. How failure is approached determines whether it becomes a barrier or a catalyst. Reviewing failures calmly allows for extraction of valuable lessons, insight into blind spots, and refinement of future plans. Calm observation creates clarity, prevents reactive decisions, and strengthens resilience. The process requires discipline, honesty, and intentionality, transforming setbacks into stepping stones toward greater capability and purpose. Begin by creating a mental separation between the person and the failure. Actions may have faltered, plans may have missed the mark, but identity remains intact. This distinction prevents shame or self-criticism from overshadowing objective analysis. Treat failure as data, a neutral indicator of where adjustments are needed. Viewing the situation objectively reduces emotional reactivity and enables thoughtful evaluation. Document each failure immediately or as soon as possible. Writing details down anchors events in reality, reducing the tendency for memory distortions or emotional exaggeration. Note what was attempted, the conditions under which it occurred, what the outcome was, and any unexpected variables. This detailed record ensures the subsequent review is accurate, evidence-based, and actionable rather than reliant on impressions or regret. Analyze causation systematically. Break the event into contributing factors, distinguishing between internal controllable elements, external uncontrollable elements, and variables that were partially controllable. Internal elements include preparation, effort, decisions, and timing. External factors may involve circumstances beyond immediate control. Identifying what can be influenced informs adjustments and emphasizes personal agency, empowering action rather than fostering helplessness. Identify patterns from repeated failures. When similar results occur under analogous circumstances, it signals a structural or habitual issue rather than a random event. Patterns reveal weaknesses in planning execution or decision-making. Recognizing these trends allows for targeted improvement and prevents recurring setbacks. Each pattern is a map to refinement and smarter action. Ask specific questions to uncover lessons. What assumptions led to this outcome? Which decisions accelerated failure? Where did focus waver? Which alternative actions could have produced a different result? The clarity of inquiry directly impacts the usefulness of the insight. Questions should be precise, actionable, and designed to uncover information that informs future strategy. Detach from emotional responses while reviewing. Anger, disappointment, or frustration are natural, but must be observed without dominating analysis. Label emotions, note them briefly, and return attention to facts and patterns. Emotional detachment ensures decisions are guided by clarity rather than impulse. Calm review cultivates the capacity to respond intentionally under pressure. Extract practical lessons. Each failure contains actionable guidance. For example, it may reveal insufficient preparation, poor communication, unrealistic expectations, or overlooked resources. Identify at least one concrete adjustment that can prevent recurrence. Lessons should be implementable, measurable, and directly relevant to similar situations in the future. Abstract moralizing offers little benefit. Practical insight drives improvement. Revise plans based on findings. Incorporate the lessons learned into strategy, approach, or behavior. Adjust timelines, methods, and priorities as necessary. These adjustments should be deliberate, specific, and measurable. Reviewing failures without updating plans limits learning to observation rather than transformation. Actionable adaptation converts setbacks into progress. Embrace humility in failure. Recognize that no effort is perfect and that setbacks are opportunities for growth rather than indictments of ability. Humility fosters receptivity to learning, reduces defensiveness, and encourages persistence. A humble approach ensures that failure informs future action rather than undermining confidence. Consider the broader context. Evaluate how external circumstances interacted with internal choices. Understanding the interplay between environment and decision-making enhances situational awareness and prepares for similar challenges. Contextual insight allows for flexible adaptation and prevents misattributing causes solely to personal shortcomings. Reflect on emotional resilience during failure. Observe how stress, uncertainty, or disappointment was managed. Consider whether reactions supported recovery and learning or exacerbated difficulty. Emotional insight informs future strategies for maintaining clarity and calm under pressure. Building resilience strengthens overall capacity to handle complexity. Include accountability in the review process. Share analysis with a mentor, coach, or trusted peer when appropriate. Objective perspectives can illuminate blind spots, validate observations, and provide additional insight. External input complements internal evaluation without replacing personal responsibility. Accountability reinforces discipline, consistency, and commitment to learning. Document alternative strategies. Brainstorm possible approaches that could have led to better results. Listing options encourages creative problem solving and prepares the mind to respond flexibly in future challenges. This exercise transforms hindsight into proactive planning. Practice visualization of improved response. Mentally rehearse situations where similar challenges occur, applying the lessons extracted. Visual rehearsal strengthens neural pathways, making effective actions more automatic and natural in real life. Anticipating obstacles and responses reduces reactivity and builds confidence in handling future setbacks. Track progress after failure adjustments. Monitor whether revised strategies produce improved outcomes. Regular observation ensures that lessons are effectively integrated and that adjustments are refined based on experience. Measurement provides evidence of growth and reinforces confidence in the capacity to learn from mistakes. Maintain a balanced perspective. Avoid allowing one failure to dominate self-assessment or perception of ability. Evaluate all successes and lessons in context to sustain motivation and focus. Balanced reflection ensures constructive learning while protecting self-trust and long-term engagement. Separate short-term failure from long-term trajectory. A single misstep does not define the overall path. Viewing failure as part of a continuum allows for recovery, recalibration, and renewed effort. This perspective fosters patience, persistence, and strategic thinking rather than impulsive reaction. Cultivate a proactive mindset. Instead of fearing failure, anticipate potential errors as part of the planning process. Identify risks, prepare contingencies, and accept that setbacks will occur. Proactive preparation reduces the severity of failures and accelerates recovery. Anticipation transforms uncertainty into manageable variables. Embed lessons into habitual practice. Integrate insights into routines, checklists, or decision-making frameworks. When adjustments become standard behavior, failure is less likely to repeat. Habitual incorporation transforms reactive correction into automatic foresight, increasing efficiency and stability in action. Review failure not once but iteratively. Multiple passes over the same event, separated by time, often reveal deeper insights that were missed initially. Re-evaluation prevents surface-level understanding and encourages layered, nuanced learning. Iterative review strengthens judgment, strategic thinking, and foresight. Recognize the positive consequences embedded in failure. Often setbacks expose unrecognized opportunities, clarify priorities, or illuminate personal values. Observing these benefits reinforces a constructive mindset and demonstrates that challenges are integral to growth, not merely obstacles. Build confidence in the process. Repeated calm review of failures produces a sense of mastery over circumstance. The mind becomes accustomed to assessing learning and adjusting without panic or avoidance. This confidence enhances resilience, decisiveness, and long-term success. Finally, approach each failure as a teacher rather than a threat. The habit of calm evaluation, extracting lessons, and updating plans converts inevitable setbacks into structured growth. By systematically learning from failures, resilience deepens, insight expands, and purposeful progress accelerates. The act of reviewing mistakes intentionally strengthens the capacity to navigate challenges effectively, ensuring that every misstep becomes a foundation for improvement, not a stumbling block. Chapter 13. Sustain momentum by celebrating effort, not just outcomes. Momentum is built through consistent action, not just occasional success. Focusing solely on outcomes creates pressure, stress, and potential burnout, whereas celebrating effort nurtures sustainable progress, self-confidence, and resilience. Effort reflects the choices made, the discipline applied, and the persistence maintained, all of which are controllable, unlike external results. When energy is placed on the act of doing rather than exclusively on achieving, action becomes intrinsically rewarding and motivation remains stable even when circumstances are unpredictable. Recognizing effort encourages the repetition of constructive behavior, which over time naturally produces desired outcomes. Begin by acknowledging every instance where deliberate action is taken toward a goal. Whether completing a task, maintaining a habit, or dedicating time to learning, each action is proof of intention and capability. Recording these moments can reinforce their significance. Journals, checklists, or even simple mental notes create evidence of consistent effort, which supports self-trust and cultivates a mindset that values process over outcome. Separate effort from results to avoid discouragement. Achievements may not always manifest immediately, but effort compounds over time. Training, practice, problem-solving, and consistent application build skills, knowledge, and resilience that will eventually produce measurable outcomes. Celebrating these incremental steps maintains motivation and prevents discouragement when progress appears slow. Recognizing the value of consistent work allows the mind to appreciate the process itself, reinforcing discipline and persistence. Develop a system for reflection that highlights effort. Weekly or daily reviews should note actions taken, decisions made, and consistency maintained. Focus on what was attempted and how energy was applied rather than on whether external expectations were met. Reflection reinforces the understanding that personal growth and skill acquisition are ongoing processes rather than singular events. Over time, these records provide tangible proof of commitment and dedication. Use positive reinforcement to acknowledge effort immediately after action. Small affirmations or self-recognitions or signals the brain to associate effort with satisfaction. This association strengthens motivation and encourages repetition. Reinforcement need not be extravagant. Simple acknowledgement, satisfaction in completion, or noting improvements is sufficient. Positive reinforcement of effort shifts the mindset from reactive reward seeking to proactive engagement with meaningful activity. Recognize the role of discipline in sustaining momentum. Discipline is the structure that allows consistent effort independent of external validation. Celebrate the choice to act even when motivation is low. Choosing effort over avoidance, sticking to routines, and honoring commitments builds internal authority and self-confidence. This focus on disciplined action produces long-term consistency that ultimately drives results. Avoid tying self-worth solely to achievement. Outcomes are influenced by variables outside immediate control, whereas effort is entirely dependent on personal choice. Anchoring satisfaction to effort rather than results protects mental well-being being and prevents feelings of inadequacy when external success is delayed or obstructed. Acknowledging the value of effort maintains self-respect and encourages continued engagement. Reframe mistakes as evidence of effort rather than failure. Attempts that do not yield expected results still demonstrate courage, action, and learning. Each attempt builds competence, sharpens decision-making, and uncovers areas for improvement. Viewing mistakes as part of effort reinforces momentum by preventing discouragement and fostering resilience. Set effort-based milestones in addition to outcome-based goals. For example, instead of only measuring finishing a project, recognize maintaining daily writing, practicing a skill, or dedicating focused time. Milestones that track application and persistence emphasize control, reinforce process-oriented thinking, and create continuous motivation. These markers remind that progress is achieved step by step through repeated action. Incorporate visual acknowledgement of effort. Notes, charts, or progress trackers that show consistent activity reinforce accomplishment even when results are not yet visible. Visualization serves as both a reminder and a motivational tool. Observing accumulated effort strengthens commitment, provides clarity, and encourages continued disciplined application. Encourage mindful awareness during action. Pay attention to quality, presence, and consistency while performing tasks. Mindful engagement heightens perception of effort, increases satisfaction, and reinforces connection to purpose. Awareness allows recognition of effort as it occurs rather than waiting for reflection or external validation. Balance effort recognition with strategic evaluation. Celebrating effort should not ignore the need for reflection or adjustment. Consider whether methods used are effective and identify areas for improvement. Integrating learning with acknowledgement of work ensures growth is both reinforced and optimized, keeping momentum focused on purposeful action. Foster a habit of gratitude toward your own dedication. Acknowledge commitment, resilience, and choices made to act consistently. Gratitude strengthens emotional resilience, reinforces identity as someone who takes deliberate action, and sustains energy for continued effort. Recognizing self-dedication creates a positive feedback loop that encourages repeated application of energy toward meaningful tasks. Share effort with supportive peers when appropriate. Describing dedication, challenges, and consistent work to trusted individuals can provide external reinforcement. Peer acknowledgement strengthens the internal perception of effort's value and motivates persistence, especially in long-term projects that do not immediately yield visible results. Integrate variety to maintain engagement and prevent monotony. Effort becomes easier to sustain when it includes diverse activities aligned with goals. Rotating tasks, practicing multiple skills, or varying approaches maintains enthusiasm, reduces mental fatigue, and preserves focus. Variation ensures that recognition of effort is meaningful and associated with growth across different contexts. Practice self-compassion in evaluating effort. Recognize that not all attempts will feel perfect or fully efficient. Acknowledge limitations without judgment and continue consistent action. Compassion protects motivation, sustains confidence, and prevents burnout, reinforcing long-term momentum. Highlight effort in learning processes. Focus on the time invested in understanding, analyzing, practicing, and experimenting rather than just the mastery achieved. The process of learning itself reflects dedication and determination. Celebrating these contributions to growth strengthens perseverance and reinforces commitment to improvement. Embed deliberate pauses to reflect on effort throughout the day. Brief acknowledgement of work completed, consistency maintained, or challenges addressed provides reinforcement in real time. Small pauses increase awareness of productive action, motivate continued activity, and maintain momentum without waiting for the end of a project or week. Emphasize resilience as an aspect of effort. Recognize actions taken despite difficulty, discomfort, or uncertainty. Effort is often most valuable when exerted under challenging conditions. Acknowledgement of perseverance under strain reinforces courage, builds confidence, and strengthens identity as someone capable of sustained application. Use effort-focused language when evaluating progress. Describe activities with action verbs and positive framing, noting what was attempted, maintained, or improved. Language shapes perception, Framing work in terms of action rather than outcome reinforces recognition of deliberate choices and supports ongoing engagement. Build cumulative momentum through small, consistent effort acknowledgements. Even modest actions repeated daily accumulate into significant progress over time. Recognizing effort at each step reinforces the habit of deliberate action, strengthens internal motivation, and preserves clarity of purpose. Compound acknowledgement drives long-term achievement even before external results are visible. Finally, commit to valuing effort as a primary measure of progress. Outcomes are important, but sustained momentum relies on recognition of the process itself. When effort is consistently acknowledged, internal motivation is reinforced, resilience increases, and action continues regardless of immediate results. Celebrating deliberate action cultivates enduring discipline, persistent energy, and meaningful growth that naturally produces results while maintaining alignment with purpose. Chapter 14. Serve others intentionally to deepen meaning and responsibility. Serving others intentionally is one of the most profound ways to cultivate purpose, responsibility, and fulfillment in life. Service is not random or reactive, it is deliberate, mindful, and aligned with the capacity to create real impact. When actions are directed toward meaningful contribution, the sense of responsibility grows, decisions gain clarity, and life acquires deeper significance. Intentional service begins with awareness of needs that one is uniquely equipped to meet and the courage to act consistently, even when recognition or reward is not immediate. By integrating service into daily behavior, influence expands, relationships strengthen, and personal growth accelerates alongside the positive effect on others. Begin by identifying ways to serve that align with skills, resources, and values. Effective service is sustainable, rooted in capability rather than impulse. Whether offering knowledge, time, guidance, or emotional support, intentional action leverages strengths to create tangible benefits. Evaluating personal capacity ensures that contribution is authentic and manageable, avoiding burnout while maximizing effectiveness. Aligning service with purpose transforms generosity into structured action that reinforces long-term growth and significance. Recognize that service requires conscious attention to others' needs. Observing without assumption is essential. Effective contribution emerges from listening, understanding context, and discerning how action will produce meaningful outcomes. Observation builds insight, ensuring that effort is directed wisely rather than wasted on superficial or unwanted interventions. Intentional service avoids self-centered motives and focuses energy on genuinely valuable outcomes for others. Integrate service into daily routines. It does not always require grand gestures. Small, consistent acts create cumulative impact. Assisting a colleague with a task, offering guidance to a friend, mentoring a peer, or volunteering time in structured ways all count as deliberate service. Consistency reinforces reliability and establishes a reputation for dependability, enhancing trust and influence over time. Habitual service aligns action with core values and contributes to the development of discipline and accountability. Balance effort with reflection to maximize impact. After each act of service, evaluate effectiveness. Did it achieve the intended result? Were needs genuinely addressed? What could have been done differently? Reflection converts action into insight, strengthening future efforts and deepening understanding of both others' requirements and personal capacity. Intentional adjustment ensures service is continuously refined and aligned with meaningful outcomes. Prioritize service that enhances both growth and responsibility. Select opportunities that challenge abilities, develop skills, and require problem-solving. Purposeful contribution fosters learning while simultaneously benefiting others. These acts strengthen self-confidence, leadership capability, and adaptive thinking. Responsibility emerges naturally as accountability for meaningful outcomes increases, reinforcing maturity and focus in personal and professional life. Develop empathy through active engagement. Empathy is not merely emotional response, it is comprehension of perspective, context, and consequence. By putting effort into understanding others' experiences, intentions become aligned with genuine need rather than superficial or convenient actions. Empathy ensures that service is impactful, thoughtful, and ethically grounded. It strengthens interpersonal skills while enhancing the authenticity and depth of contribution. Anticipate opportunities for proactive service. Waiting for requests limits influence and diminishes potential for impact. Observing situations, recognizing gaps, and stepping forward preemptively demonstrate leadership and initiative. Anticipatory action often produces more significant results than reactive engagement and builds a habit of vigilance, responsibility, and consistent contribution. Set boundaries to ensure sustainability. Intentional service requires energy, time, and mental clarity. Overcommitting reduces effectiveness, undermines personal well-being, and risks diminishing the quality of contributions. Define clear limits while maintaining flexibility to respond strategically. Boundaries enable reliable and high-quality action, reinforcing discipline and ensuring service remains meaningful rather than perfunctory. Integrate mentoring and guidance as forms of service. Sharing knowledge, experience, and insight accelerates others' development while solidifying personal expertise. Intentional mentorship is structured, goal-oriented, and responsive to the needs of those receiving guidance. This dual benefit strengthens personal growth while amplifying the positive influence one can exert on a broader scale. Recognize that service strengthens accountability to both self and others. Each deliberate act carries responsibility for outcome and follow-through. Consistency in action nurtures trustworthiness and cultivates a sense of integrity. Accountability motivates discipline, encourages planning, and reinforces the connection between purpose and practice. Foster collaboration in service. Working with others increases reach, effectiveness, and sustainability. Collaboration requires clear communication, mutual respect, and shared responsibility. The act of coordinating effort enhances relational intelligence, leadership skills, and practical problem solving, deepening the impact of deliberate service. Reflect on long-term impact. Evaluate how repeated acts contribute to broader objectives and align with personal purpose. Understanding cumulative effect reinforces the importance of persistence and consistency. Long-term perspective transforms small, ordinary contributions into meaningful, sustained influence. Embed gratitude in service practices. Recognizing the opportunities to contribute and the effects of efforts reinforces motivation. Gratitude enhances humility, perspective, and emotional balance, deepening connection with those served. It encourages ongoing intentional engagement and reduces self-centered expectations of reward. Incorporate learning into service. Each act of contribution provides insight into human behavior, systems, and effective strategies. Extract lessons from successes and setbacks alike and apply them to future engagements. Service becomes a source of personal development as well as external benefit, producing a cycle of growth and refinement. Celebrate the discipline of showing up. Consistent service is less about visibility or accolades and more about reliability, persistence, and sustained engagement. Recognize the importance of maintaining commitment even when immediate results are not visible. Discipline in service reinforces identity, strengthens self-trust, and produces long-term influence. Leverage feedback to refine contributions. Seek input from those served regarding effectiveness, impact, and clarity. Constructive feedback informs adjustments, improving both strategy and execution. Openness to evaluation enhances accountability, owns effectiveness, and fosters mutual respect and collaboration. Use intentional service to model behavior. Demonstrate values, integrity, and dedication through action rather than instruction. Influence grows when behavior reflects commitment, and others are inspired to emulate discipline, compassion, and purpose-driven action. Modeling provides indirect but powerful reinforcement of values in communities and networks. Integrate deliberate planning into acts of service. Structure engagement with defined objectives, measurable outcomes, and clear priorities. Planning ensures that energy is allocated efficiently and that actions produce observable impact. Organized service amplifies effectiveness while fostering confidence in decision-making and execution. Prioritize quality over quantity. The depth, relevance, and consistency of contribution matter more than the volume of effort. Thoughtful, focused engagement creates sustainable impact and reinforces responsibility. Avoid dispersing energy across superficial efforts that dilute influence or personal growth. align service with broader purpose. Every act should connect to long-term vision, personal values, and desired impact. Alignment ensures that contributions are not random but intentional, meaningful, and integrated into the narrative of purposeful living. This coherence strengthens both motivation and identity. Finally, approach service as a disciplined practice. Consistency, reflection, learning, and intentionality transform isolated acts into a lifestyle that nurtures growth, responsibility, and meaningful influence. Serving others intentionally reinforces purpose, expands capacity for impact, and ensures that daily actions contribute to both personal development and the betterment of others. By embedding service into everyday life with conscious thought, energy, and structure, influence becomes tangible, responsibility deepens, and meaning is reinforced in ways that shape character, skill, and lasting contribution. Chapter 15. Lead yourself first with discipline, patience, and integrity. Leading oneself effectively is the foundation for all meaningful achievement and influence. True leadership begins internally, rooted in discipline, patience, and integrity. Without the ability to manage personal behavior, emotions, and choices, external leadership is fragmented and inconsistent. Self-leadership is an ongoing practice that requires awareness of habits, intentional decision-making, and consistent alignment with values. It demands prioritizing long-term development over immediate gratification, responding to challenges with composure, and maintaining honesty even when it is uncomfortable. Leading yourself first establishes the authority, clarity, and resilience necessary to navigate complex circumstances and guide others effectively. Discipline is the cornerstone of self-leadership. It is the ability to act consistently according to intention, regardless of temporary distractions, moods, or external pressures. Discipline creates structure in thought and behavior, transforming ambition into practical accomplishment. Begin by identifying key areas of life where disciplined action produces tangible results, such as daily routines, work priorities, personal development, and health. Establish habits that support long-term goals and reinforce self-respect. Discipline is strengthened through repetition, small victories, and consistent evaluation, creating momentum that carries through more challenging circumstances. Patience is equally critical in leading oneself. Progress and growth rarely occur instantly, and premature judgment or impulsive reaction can derail effort. Cultivating patience allows for thoughtful decision-making, measured response to obstacles, and sustained engagement with meaningful action. It involves tolerance for delayed results, persistence through difficulty, and acceptance that mastery and change require time. Patience also enhances the ability to manage stress, regulate emotions, and maintain clarity when faced with setbacks or uncertainty. Integrity forms the moral and practical backbone of self-leadership. Leading with integrity ensures that actions are aligned with values, promises are honored, and accountability is maintained. It provides a consistent framework for making decisions, even under pressure or in ambiguous situations. Integrity builds trust with oneself, reinforcing self-confidence and authority. It also generates credibility with others, creating influence rooted in reliability and ethical conduct, rather than coercion or superficial authority. Self-awareness is essential for effective leadership of oneself. Understanding personal strengths, weaknesses, triggers, and habits enables precise adjustment of behavior to maintain alignment with values and goals. Awareness allows for identification of patterns that support or hinder growth, as well as recognition of opportunities for deliberate improvement. Regular reflection, journaling, and honest evaluation are tools that strengthen awareness, ensuring decisions and actions are intentional rather than reactive. Establishing clear priorities enhances self-leadership. Focus on what matters most in alignment with long-term purpose and values. Avoid dispersing energy across trivial or low-value activities. Prioritization involves choosing tasks, habits, and commitments that advance meaningful objectives while maintaining balance and resilience. Clarity in priorities reduces indecision, minimizes wasted effort, and strengthens control over outcomes. Each choice becomes a deliberate act rather than a response to circumstance. Develop resilience through consistent challenge and adaptation. Leading oneself requires confronting discomfort, uncertainty, and obstacles without retreating from responsibility. Resilience is built by maintaining action under pressure, recovering from setbacks, and learning from mistakes. Practicing resilience strengthens confidence, enhances emotional stability, and cultivates the capacity to navigate increasingly complex situations. It also reinforces commitment to personal standards and long-term objectives, ensuring progress continues despite temporary difficulty. Mastering emotional regulation is vital for self-leadership. Decisions made in anger, fear, or impatience are often misaligned with values and long-term goals. Training attention to recognize emotions, respond deliberately, and maintain composure enhances clarity and effectiveness. Techniques such as deep reflection, controlled breathing, and mental rehearsal support regulation and reinforce the ability to lead calmly under stress. Create accountability mechanisms for consistent self-guidance. Self-leadership requires monitoring progress, evaluating behavior, and correcting course when necessary. Use tools such as journals, checklists, progress reviews, or mentors to maintain accountability. Honest tracking ensures actions remain aligned with values and objectives, while providing evidence of improvement and areas needing attention. Accountability reinforces discipline and integrity simultaneously, creating a feedback loop that strengthens overall self-governance. Cultivate intentional routines to support leadership habits. Structured daily practices provide predictability, focus, and stability. Routines anchor essential behaviors such as exercise, reflection, planning, learning, and deliberate action. Consistent practice reinforces discipline, reduces decision fatigue, and strengthens the capacity for patient, value-aligned action. Routine becomes a vehicle through which self-leadership is exercised automatically, freeing energy for complex problem-solving and purposeful action. Lead decisions through principle rather than impulse. Base choices on values, evidence, and long-term impact rather than short-term desire or external pressure. Deliberate decision-making reinforces integrity, strengthens confidence, and produces consistency in behavior. Decisions aligned with purpose establish internal authority and create a coherent framework for future action. Principle-based choices provide a reliable compass when navigating uncertainty or competing priorities. Reflect regularly to strengthen self-leadership. Reflection allows evaluation of behavior, alignment with values, and assessment of outcomes. Identify areas where discipline, patience, or integrity was maintained or where improvement is needed. Reflection provides insight for adjustments, reinforces learning, and deepens self-awareness. A reflective practice ensures leadership evolves alongside personal growth rather than stagnating in habit or routine. Develop courage to act in alignment with values despite difficulty. Self-leadership often requires taking unpopular stands, making challenging decisions, or persevering through discomfort. Courage reinforces integrity, strengthens resilience, and models accountability. It demonstrates commitment to purpose over convenience and ensures that leadership is genuine rather than performative. Invest in continuous learning to enhance leadership capacity. Expanding knowledge, refining skills, and exploring new perspectives increase capability, adaptability, and confidence. Learning equips the mind to anticipate challenges, solve problems effectively, and maintain composure under pressure. Knowledge combined with discipline, patience, and integrity produces comprehensive self-leadership that is practical, adaptable, and sustainable. Maintain balance between action and rest. Leading oneself effectively is not about relentless activity, but about managing energy, focus, and clarity. Strategic rest supports recovery, mental clarity, and sustained performance. Recognizing limits and integrating restorative periods is an expression of discipline and patience, enabling higher quality action over longer periods. Anchor leadership in purpose to ensure alignment and clarity. Every decision, habit, and action should connect to overarching goals and values. Purpose-centered leadership prevents distraction, enhances motivation, and strengthens the capacity to act consistently under challenge. Purpose provides context for discipline, patience, and integrity, giving direction and meaning to each choice. Model self-leadership in relationships and environments. How one manages oneself establishes influence on others without coercion. Demonstrating discipline, patience, and integrity sets a standard, encourages accountability, and fosters respect. Leading by example ensures that authority is earned through consistent action and value-aligned behavior. Evaluate progress against defined standards, not external comparison. Self-leadership is measured by alignment with personal principles and objectives, rather than by the performance of others. Internal benchmarks create sustainable motivation, reinforce autonomy, and support confidence in personal judgment. Consistency in evaluating performance against values ensures ongoing growth and clarity. Adapt strategies as circumstances evolve. Leading oneself requires flexibility while remaining anchored in principle. Adjusting approach without compromising integrity, patience, or discipline ensures continued effectiveness across varying challenges. Flexibility enhances problem solving, maintains momentum, and strengthens resilience. Finally, recognize that leading oneself first is a lifelong practice. Discipline, patience, and integrity are not traits to be acquired once, but skills to be exercised daily. Consistency in self-leadership establishes authority, clarity, and purpose, allowing influence to extend outward while ensuring personal growth remains intact. Mastery of internal leadership provides a foundation for meaningful action, responsible decision-making, and enduring impact in all areas of life. Chapter 16c. Live purposefully by choosing actions aligned with values. Living purposefully begins with clarity about what matters most and consistently aligning actions with those values. Purpose is not a distant goal or abstract idea, but a framework that guides every decision, choice, and habit. It transforms ordinary actions into meaningful steps, giving intention to daily routines and resilience to challenges. Living in alignment requires awareness of core values, honesty about priorities, and deliberate choices that reflect both personal principles and long-term objectives. Each action then becomes a building block, reinforcing identity, confidence, and direction, while creating measurable impact in life and relationships. Identify core values with precision. Values are the non-negotiable principles that define character, guide judgment, and inform priorities. Take time to distinguish what truly matters versus what is convenient, expected, or externally imposed. Values may include integrity, growth, service, courage, or creativity. Clearly articulating these principles provides a compass that directs attention, effort, and energy. Without this clarity, decisions become reactive, inconsistent, and misaligned, eroding focus and purpose over time. Examine daily actions through the lens of values. Each choice, task, and interaction should be assessed for alignment. Ask whether it contributes to long-term objectives or merely serves short-term convenience. Awareness of alignment creates discipline, reduces wasted energy, and reinforces identity as someone who acts intentionally. This conscious evaluation ensures that time and effort are invested in ways that sustain growth, influence, and fulfillment. Prioritize consistency over perfection. Purposeful living is reinforced through repeated action, not isolated successes. Small daily choices that reflect values accumulate into habits that define character and trajectory. Discipline in following principles, even when inconvenient or difficult, strengthens self-trust and maintains clarity of direction. Consistent alignment with values produces momentum that supports more complex decisions and long-term goals. Develop the ability to pause before acting. Deliberate reflection allows assessment of whether immediate impulses or habitual responses align with purpose. This moment of pause prevents reactive behavior, reduces regret, and ensures choices are intentional. Pausing fosters mindfulness, strengthens self-control, and reinforces the integration of values into every action. Recognize the consequences of misalignment. Actions that conflict with values generate stress, dissatisfaction, and internal conflict. They undermine confidence, compromise integrity, and distract from meaningful objectives. Awareness of these consequences reinforces the importance of deliberate choice and motivates corrective action. Using misalignment as feedback encourages course correction without self-criticism or stagnation. Cultivate accountability structures to support alignment. Tracking decisions, maintaining journals, or sharing progress with trusted mentors or peers reinforces adherence to values. Accountability provides external verification, promotes consistency, and strengthens commitment to purposeful behavior. It transforms intention into measurable action, ensuring that alignment is maintained even under pressure or distraction. Embed values into goal setting. Goals are most meaningful and sustainable when they reflect core principles. Align short-term objectives with long-term purpose to maintain motivation, clarity, and engagement. Goals should not merely satisfy external expectations, but should reinforce identity, ethics, and growth. Purpose-driven goals create a coherent roadmap that ensures energy is allocated efficiently and impactfully. Refine decision-making through reflection. Periodically evaluate past choices to ensure ongoing alignment with values. Analyze successes and missteps objectively, identifying patterns that either support or hinder purposeful living. Reflection strengthens judgment, sharpens awareness, and reinforces the integration of principles into action. Continuous adjustment ensures growth remains intentional rather than incidental. Practice selective commitment. Purposeful living requires saying no to opportunities, activities, or requests that divert energy from core objectives. Discipline in choosing what to engage with preserves focus, prevents fatigue, and maintains integrity. Prioritization ensures that attention, time, and effort are dedicated to actions that meaningfully reflect values, enhancing both effectiveness and satisfaction. Integrate ethical consistency into everyday interactions. Align behavior with values not only in private actions but also in professional, social, and public settings. Integrity in all contexts reinforces self-respect, strengthens credibility, and cultivates trust with others. Consistent ethical alignment ensures that purpose permeates life comprehensively rather than selectively. Harness intentionality in habits. Routine behaviors should reflect principles, values, and long-term purpose. From simple practices like punctuality, communication, and focus to complex systems of planning and skill development, habits form the structural backbone of alignment. When habits support purpose, daily energy is directed efficiently, reducing decision fatigue and enhancing consistent progress. Anticipate challenges to alignment. Life inevitably presents situations where values conflict with convenience, pressure, or temptation. Prepare in advance by identifying potential conflicts and establishing strategies to maintain alignment. Anticipation strengthens resilience, reinforces discipline, and ensures that intentional living persists even under stress or adversity. Embed gratitude and mindfulness in purposeful living. Awareness of each moment, its significance, and its alignment with values enhances focus, satisfaction, and emotional balance. Gratitude reinforces recognition of progress, effort, and meaningful engagement, which strengthens motivation and perseverance. Mindfulness ensures that attention remains on the present and that actions reflect intentional choice rather than autopilot habit. Use reflection to reinforce identity. Each action aligned with values strengthens self-concept and confidence. Recognize moments when choices consistently reflect purpose and internalize these behaviors as central to personal identity. This integration builds psychological consistency, reduces cognitive dissonance, and strengthens commitment to continued purposeful living. Develop resilience by embracing setbacks as learning opportunities. Even when efforts do not produce immediate results, adherence to values maintains direction and character. Setbacks provide insight into processes, priorities, and areas for adjustment, reinforcing discipline and strategic thinking. Resilient alignment ensures that temporary difficulties do not derail long-term purpose. Create measurable markers for alignment. Identify indicators that demonstrate actions are consistent with values, such as progress toward goals, consistency in habit execution, and feedback from trusted peers. Monitoring alignment provides clarity, reinforces intentionality, and creates evidence of growth, sustaining motivation and engagement. Integrate service into value-based living. Purposeful action often intersects with contributing to others in ways consistent with principles. Service reflects application of values in real-world contexts, reinforcing purpose, responsibility, and influence. Intentional contribution amplifies personal impact while reinforcing identity as someone who acts meaningfully. Maintain flexibility within structure. Purposeful living balances consistency with adaptability. While principles provide direction, methods of execution may vary based on circumstances. Flexibility ensures that values remain central while allowing practical responsiveness to change, challenges, or opportunity. Adaptive alignment preserves purpose without rigidity or stagnation. Finally, commit to living with intention every day. Purposeful living is sustained through repeated deliberate choice, conscious reflection, and alignment of action with values. Each decision, habit, and interaction becomes an expression of principle, reinforcing identity, clarity, and resilience. Through consistent alignment, life gains direction, meaning, and fulfillment, transforming ordinary days into meaningful progress toward enduring goals and authentic impact. Chapter 17 Teach your purpose through consistent example and service. Teaching your purpose through consistent example and service begins with embodying the principles you aim to share. True influence is never established through words alone. It is demonstrated through reliable action, deliberate behavior, and persistent commitment to values. Every choice, habit, and response communicates what is prioritized, what is respected, and what is considered meaningful. Leading by example transforms abstract ideas into tangible guidance that others can observe, internalize, and emulate. Service amplifies this teaching because purposeful action that benefits others illustrates the real-world application of principles, showing that purpose is actionable and not theoretical. Start by clarifying your purpose in concrete terms. Understanding the values, goals, and standards that define your mission is essential before attempting to convey them to others. Purpose is communicated most powerfully when the person demonstrating it operates with clarity, consistency, and authenticity. Self-awareness of strengths, limitations, and commitments ensures that teaching through example is credible and grounded in reality rather than projection or assumption. Consistency is critical. Sporadic demonstration of values or selective adherence to principles undermines credibility and weakens influence. Regularly aligning behavior with stated purpose reinforces reliability and fosters trust. Repetition of action shows that your purpose is not a passing interest, but a central organizing principle guiding daily life. Over time, consistency signals to observers that purpose is durable, practical, and worth emulating. Engage in intentional service as a teaching tool. Actions that directly assist, mentor, or support others make abstract principles visible. When teaching through service, the lessons are practical, immediate, and demonstrable. Each act provides evidence of the value of purpose-driven behavior and encourages others to adopt similar practices. Service communicates priorities, reinforces accountability, and models commitment in a way that verbal explanation alone cannot achieve. Demonstrate integrity in every interaction. Purpose taught through example relies heavily on ethical and moral consistency. Following through on promises, respecting boundaries, and maintaining honesty establishes a standard for others. Integrity ensures that teaching is rooted in authenticity rather than rhetoric and builds a foundation of trust that amplifies influence. When integrity is visible, others learn not only the content of purpose, but also the character required to live it effectively. Integrate deliberate reflection to reinforce learning. Periodically evaluate your actions and their alignment with purpose. Consider whether behavior accurately models principles and whether service is impactful. Reflection allows adjustments that improve both personal adherence to purpose and the clarity of example presented to others. It creates a feedback loop in which teaching through action is continuously refined, ensuring maximum effectiveness and authenticity. Communicate purpose subtly through everyday behavior. Teaching does not require constant explanation. Often, it is observed in routine decisions, work ethic, attention to detail, and treatment of others. Small, repeated demonstrations of commitment, patience, discipline, and respect become teaching moments. Observers absorb lessons from patterns of behavior that consistently reflect principles, understanding that values are expressed through action rather than words alone. Foster mentorship through presence and engagement. Providing guidance while modeling purpose allows for both observation and interaction. Explain decisions when appropriate, share reasoning, and involve others in purposeful activities. This combination of demonstration and dialogue bridges understanding, helping others internalize values and see practical ways to implement them in their own lives. Mentorship connects teaching with service, making learning participatory and actionable. Recognize the power of accountability in teaching through example. Publicly honoring commitments, accepting responsibility for mistakes, and correcting course when necessary reinforces the value of ownership. Accountability models resilience and honesty, teaching that purpose is upheld even in challenging circumstances. Observers learn that responsibility is a critical element of living intentionally and serving effectively. Balance humility with authority. Teaching through example requires confidence in one's values and decisions, but without arrogance. Humility communicates that purpose is not about self-promotion, but about practical impact and consistent integrity. This combination fosters receptivity in others, encouraging emulation and deep respect for the principles demonstrated. Use challenges as opportunities to model purpose in action. Difficult situations reveal character and provide observable examples of resilience, patience, and ethical decision-making. How challenges are handled communicates far more than successes alone. Observers learn from witnessing composure, strategic thinking, and consistent adherence to values under pressure. These lessons in real-time application are powerful and memorable, embedding principles in practical context, highlight the connection between purpose and contribution, demonstrate how intentional action not only aligns with personal values, but also benefits others or advances meaningful outcomes. Teaching purpose through service clarifies that principles are actionable, sustainable, and socially impactful. Observers gain understanding that living purposefully has tangible effects on the environment, community, and relationships, reinforcing the value of integration between intention and action. Integrate storytelling and explanation sparingly to support action. Occasionally providing context for decisions or behaviors deepens understanding without overshadowing demonstration. Explaining motivations, reasoning, and outcomes enhances the transfer of principles while maintaining the emphasis on observation and modeling. Stories anchored in real action solidify abstract values in relatable, memorable experiences. Encourage active participation. Invite others to engage in service or purposeful action alongside you. Shared experience allows observers to internalize lessons through practice, deepening comprehension and reinforcing accountability. Experiential learning through guided participation strengthens both confidence and competence, making adoption of purpose-driven behavior more natural and sustainable. Celebrate efforts and progress publicly when appropriate. Recognizing the contributions of others during joint activities reinforces the significance of consistent action, commitment, and adherence to principles. This acknowledgement models how to honor effort, encourages replication, and reinforces the collective value of purposeful living. Recognition transforms observation into motivation, showing that consistent application of values produces respect, trust, and tangible outcomes. Emphasize patience and long-term commitment. Purpose cannot be taught through isolated examples or one-time actions. Demonstrate sustained engagement, perseverance, and adherence to principles over months and years. Long-term consistency communicates dedication, reliability, and the real-world impact of values in action, inspiring observers to adopt similar approaches. Adapt teaching strategies to context without compromising principles. Different environments require different approaches, but the underlying values remain unchanged. Modeling flexibility in execution while maintaining consistency in purpose demonstrates that intentional behavior is both principled and adaptable. Observers learn that living purposefully is practical, resilient, and relevant across circumstances. Reflect openly on lessons learned through service and example. Sharing insights gained from practical application of values models self-awareness, humility, and growth. It shows that purpose involves continuous improvement, learning from action, and integrating experience into future behavior. Transparency in learning reinforces credibility, enhances trust, and provides a roadmap for others to follow. Anchor all actions in authenticity. Purpose is taught most effectively when behavior is genuine, deliberate, and consistent with internal principles. Authenticity fosters connection, strengthens influence, and ensures that examples are observed as credible and applicable rather than performative. Authentic living demonstrates that values are actionable, meaningful, and integral to identity. Finally, commit to teaching through consistent example and service every day. Influence grows not through rhetoric, but through repeated deliberate and values-aligned action. Each interaction, choice, and contribution becomes an opportunity to demonstrate principles, inspire others, and reinforce purpose. Over time, this practice establishes a legacy of integrity, accountability, and meaningful impact, showing that purpose is lived, experienced, and transmitted through action rather than words alone. Chapter 18: To protect focus by setting boundaries around time-energy. Protecting focus requires deliberate attention to how time and energy are allocated, because distraction is one of the most subtle obstacles to meaningful progress. Time is finite, energy is limited, and the combination of these resources determines the quality and impact of every action. Guarding both is not a one-time effort, but a consistent practice that demands awareness, discipline, and strategic choice. Focus is strengthened when clear boundaries are established around commitments, interactions, and tasks. Without boundaries, priorities are diluted, effort is scattered, and the ability to pursue meaningful objectives is compromised. Protecting focus is an act of self-respect, efficiency, and long-term vision. Begin by evaluating current use of time and energy. Identify activities that are high value, aligned with purpose, and result in tangible progress. Contrast these with low value or energy draining activities that do not serve long-term goals. Understanding where effort is wasted illuminates the areas where boundaries are most necessary. Measurement creates awareness, which is the foundation for deliberate adjustment. Establish clear time boundaries around daily routines. Allocate blocks for focused work, reflection, learning, rest, and service. Protect these blocks from intrusion by setting expectations with others, communicating limits, and enforcing them consistently. Scheduled boundaries prevent reactive behavior and preserve the mental clarity needed for complex tasks. Time boundaries create predictable structure, reducing decision fatigue and increasing efficiency. Energy boundaries are equally important. Recognize tasks, relationships, and environments that deplete energy without providing meaningful return. Reduce engagement with these drains and redirect attention toward activities that reinforce purpose, growth, and resilience. Energy is a renewable resource when managed thoughtfully, but it must be conserved and directed deliberately. Awareness of energy expenditure allows for strategic prioritization of effort. Say no strategically to preserve focus. Refusing requests, opportunities, or engagements that do not align with purpose is essential. Each no reinforces clarity, protects priorities, and ensures that energy is reserved for meaningful action. Saying no is not a rejection of people, but a protection of personal resources, enabling higher quality contributions where they matter most. Eliminate distractions systematically. Identify recurring interruptions, technological triggers, and environmental factors that reduce concentration. Implement practical measures such as turning off notifications, creating dedicated workspaces, and controlling accessibility. Discipline in managing these variables enhances sustained attention, reduces cognitive load, and increases the efficiency of effort. Protect mental focus through deliberate routines. Morning rituals, planning sessions, and intentional breaks anchor energy and provide a consistent framework for engagement. Routines prepare the mind for sustained effort, support prioritization, and minimize reactive decision-making. Habitual structures reduce reliance on willpower alone, ensuring that focus is maintained with minimal friction. Delegate when appropriate to safeguard attention. Focus is diminished when attempting to manage tasks that can be handled effectively by others. Delegation requires trust, clear communication, and monitoring, but it multiplies impact and preserves cognitive and emotional energy for high-priority actions. Protecting focus involves knowing what to personally attend to and what can be responsibly delegated. Integrate reflection to assess boundaries. Regularly evaluate whether time and energy allocations are effective, sustainable, and aligned with purpose. Adjust boundaries based on observation results and changing priorities. Reflection strengthens discipline, prevents erosion of focus, and ensures that boundaries evolve in response to real-world demands without compromising purpose. Protect focus by managing social interactions. Not every engagement warrants attention or energy. Prioritize relationships and discussions that support growth, collaboration, and meaningful contribution. Limit interactions that are draining, non-constructive, or distracting. Intentional selection preserves mental clarity and supports sustained engagement in high-value work. Use environmental design to reinforce boundaries. Organize physical and digital spaces to minimize distractions, reduce decision fatigue, and promote focus. Clutter, interruptions, and chaotic surroundings consume mental energy and reduce attention. Thoughtful environmental arrangement supports discipline, reinforces priorities, and makes it easier to maintain deliberate focus on essential tasks. Set boundaries around information intake. Constant exposure to news, social media, and non-essential content consumes attention and energy. Prioritize sources that are relevant, educational, or purpose-aligned. Regulate frequency and duration of consumption to prevent cognitive overload. Protecting focus requires guarding not only time and energy, but also the quality of mental input. Maintain consistency in enforcing boundaries. Boundaries lose effectiveness if applied inconsistently or abandoned under pressure. Discipline requires persistence, even when challenged by external demands, habitual impulses, or perceived urgency. Consistent enforcement strengthens self-respect, builds credibility with others, and ensures that focus remains protected as a priority rather than an optional preference. Incorporate breaks to sustain energy. Boundaries are not solely about restriction, they also involve renewal. Planned rest periods, mental reset exercises, and physical activity replenish energy, prevent burnout, and support long-term productivity. Protecting focus requires balancing engagement with recovery to ensure sustained high-quality action. Develop clarity of purpose as a guide for boundary setting. Focus is maintained when the reason for effort is explicit and compelling. Values, goals, and principles provide a framework for deciding what deserves attention and what should be restricted. Purpose-informed boundaries prevent overcommitment and allow energy to be directed efficiently toward meaningful outcomes. Evaluate personal peak performance times. Schedule high-focus tasks during periods of maximum mental and physical energy. Align less demanding or routine activities with lower energy periods. Awareness of natural rhythms ensures that effort is concentrated where it is most effective, enhancing productivity and preserving energy for critical decisions and actions. Communicate boundaries clearly to others. Transparency about availability, focus periods, and priorities minimizes conflict and misunderstanding. Clear communication reinforces accountability, encourages respect, and ensures that boundaries are honored without unnecessary negotiation or stress. Others respond predictably when expectations are established and maintained consistently. Practice selective focus on priorities rather than multitasking. Concentrating on one high-value task at a time produces higher quality results, faster completion, and reduced cognitive strain. Intentional focus ensures that effort is fully applied, energy is conserved, and progress toward meaningful goals is maximized. Multitasking often erodes both efficiency and clarity of thought. Protect focus by reducing unnecessary commitments. Regularly evaluate responsibilities, eliminate redundant or low-impact tasks, and streamline obligations. Simplification increases mental clarity, reduces stress, and preserves energy for actions aligned with purpose. A lean structure of commitment allows deeper engagement in activities that truly matter. Reinforce boundaries with accountability systems. Track adherence to time and energy limits, and reflect on effectiveness regularly. Accountability ensures discipline, highlights areas needing adjustment, and encourages commitment to focus as a non-negotiable priority. Systems can include journals, progress trackers, or trusted peers who monitor and support boundary maintenance. Finally, approach focus as a disciplined practice, consistently protecting time and energy through clear, intentional boundaries allows for sustained clarity, productivity, and alignment with purpose. Boundaries are not restrictive obstacles but tools that preserve capacity, sharpen decision-making, and ensure that effort is directed where it produces meaningful impact. Protecting focus daily strengthens resilience, enhances achievement, and transforms intention into consistent action that advances goals and supports growth. Chapter 19D. Balance ambition with well-being to maintain long-term purpose. Balancing ambition with well-being is essential for sustaining long-term purpose because relentless pursuit without care erodes health, clarity, and effectiveness. Ambition drives progress, but unchecked ambition can produce stress, fatigue, and decisions that compromise long-term goals. Well-being provides the energy, resilience, and mental clarity necessary to pursue meaningful objectives consistently. Sustainable achievement requires integrating personal health, emotional stability, and rest into the pursuit of purpose. Maintaining balance ensures that effort remains deliberate, decisions are thoughtful, and progress is aligned with values without sacrificing physical or mental capacity. Start by assessing current energy levels and stress indicators. Awareness of physical fatigue, mental overwhelm, and emotional strain allows for deliberate adjustment of pace and priorities. Understanding limits is not a weakness but a strategic tool for maximizing output without undermining long-term capacity. Regular self-monitoring creates a baseline from which improvements can be planned and sustained. Integrate rest and recovery into ambitious schedules. High achievement is not a measure of constant activity, but of effective action supported by renewal. Sleep, nutrition, movement, and mental breaks are not optional. They are strategic investments that enhance cognitive performance, decision-making, and resilience. Scheduling recovery ensures that effort is sustainable and progress continues even under pressure. Set realistic goals that consider both aspiration and sustainability. Ambition should challenge but not overwhelm. Goals must reflect potential, values, and long-term vision while remaining achievable given available energy and resources. Unrealistic expectations increase risk of burnout, discouragement, and reduced focus. Purposeful ambition balances stretching boundaries with maintaining capacity to perform effectively over time. Prioritize self-care as part of disciplined action. Activities that support physical, emotional, and mental health are integral to maintaining clarity and stamina. Regular exercise, mindful nutrition, social connection, and relaxation practices reinforce energy levels and reduce stress. Integrating care into daily routines ensures that well-being is preserved while pursuing ambitious objectives. Recognize the signs of overextension early. Fatigue, irritability, reduced focus, and emotional volatility indicate imbalance. Respond proactively by adjusting workload, reducing commitments, or incorporating restorative practices. Awareness and timely intervention prevent minor strain from escalating into significant setbacks that compromise both health and purpose. Develop boundaries to protect well-being. Clearly define limits around work, obligations, and external pressures to ensure time and energy for restorative practices. Boundaries preserve mental clarity, reduce chronic stress, and maintain focus on long-term objectives. Consistent enforcement of boundaries reinforces discipline, demonstrates self-respect, and sustains capacity for ambitious effort. Practice mindfulness to maintain alignment between ambition and well-being. Awareness of thoughts, emotions, and bodily signals enhances decision-making and prevents overcommitment. Mindfulness allows deliberate pacing, prevents impulsive choices driven by pressure, and ensures actions remain aligned with values and long-term goals. Regular reflection supports equilibrium between effort and restoration. Integrate flexibility in pursuit of objectives. Ambition often involves navigating unexpected challenges or adjusting strategies. Flexibility ensures that setbacks, delays, or changing circumstances do not force compromise of well-being. Adapting approach while maintaining focus preserves energy, reduces stress, and supports consistent progress without sacrificing health. Develop resilience to sustain purpose under pressure. Well-being is not merely avoidance of stress but capacity to manage it effectively. Resilience includes emotional regulation, cognitive reframing, and strategic response to challenges. Combining ambition with resilience allows continued action toward goals while preserving mental and physical health. Measure progress using holistic indicators. Evaluate not only achievements but also levels of energy, emotional stability, and satisfaction. Monitoring both output and well Being ensures that ambition is productive without being destructive. Holistic evaluation promotes adjustments that maintain equilibrium and enhance long-term effectiveness. Align daily routines with both ambition and wellness. Structure activities to include periods of high-intensity focus balanced with restorative practices. Intentionally sequencing work and recovery preserves attention, prevents fatigue, and maximizes efficiency. Balanced routines transform ambition into sustainable action rather than fleeting bursts of effort. Cultivate supportive environments that reinforce balance. Surround yourself with people, resources, and systems that respect both goals and well-being. Positive influence, collaboration, and accountability strengthen capacity to pursue ambition sustainably. Environment shapes energy levels, focus, and resilience, making it a critical factor in maintaining long-term purpose. Practice selective commitment to preserve energy. Not every opportunity or task aligns with goals and values. Choose engagements that advance purpose while maintaining balance. Strategic choice prevents dispersion of energy and ensures that effort is meaningful, manageable, and sustainable. Recognize that setbacks are part of sustainable progress. Occasional failure or delay does not indicate lack of capability, but highlights areas needing adjustment. Approach challenges as learning opportunities while preserving mental and physical health. This perspective maintains motivation and prevents burnout. Integrate reflection on purpose and satisfaction. Regular evaluation of whether actions serve meaningful objectives reinforces alignment, clarifies priorities, and ensures that effort is consistent with personal values. Reflection prevents drift into overwork or imbalance and supports deliberate pacing in pursuit of long-term goals. Foster emotional intelligence to manage internal and external pressures. Awareness of emotional responses allows for regulation under stress, maintains clarity of judgment, and ensures that ambition is directed strategically. Emotional competence preserves well-being while enabling effective progress toward purpose. Use incremental progress to maintain both momentum and health. Small, deliberate steps allow consistent achievement without overwhelming energy reserves. Incremental advancement ensures sustainable engagement, reinforces self-confidence, and reduces risk of burnout. Purposeful pacing converts ambition into enduring, measurable progress. Celebrate achievements while honoring well-being. Recognition of milestones, effort, and growth reinforces motivation while maintaining satisfaction and emotional balance. Celebration supports mental health, strengthens resilience, and reinforces commitment to sustained purpose. Integrate learning and adaptation into long-term strategy. Continually assess how ambition and well-being interact and adjust approach to optimize both. Learning ensures that strategy remains effective and sustainable over time, reinforcing long-term progress without compromising health. Anchor ambition in purpose. Goals must reflect meaningful objectives rather than external validation or comparison. Purpose-centered ambition provides direction, resilience, and fulfillment while reducing pressure to overextend. Alignment with values ensures that energy investment produces meaningful, lasting outcomes. Finally, approach ambition with deliberate care for well-being every day. Balancing effort, energy, and health ensures that progress is sustainable, focus remains clear, and purpose is maintained over the long term. Daily integration of self-care, reflection, and strategic pacing strengthens resilience, preserves capacity, and transforms ambition into enduring, purpose-driven achievement that enhances life rather than diminishes it. Chapter 20. Act daily with purpose to inspire others authentically. Acting daily with purpose begins with understanding that influence is rooted in consistent intentional behavior rather than occasional grand gestures. Every action carries weight, and when those actions reflect clarity, integrity, and alignment with core values, they inspire others without the need for explanation or demonstration of superiority. Purposeful action is visible, measurable, and contagious because it communicates a standard of living that combines discipline, authenticity, and service. Inspiration is generated not by claiming wisdom or success, but by embodying principles that others can observe, trust, and ultimately emulate. Start by clarifying your daily intentions. Each morning, identify the actions that will most clearly reflect purpose, values, and long-term objectives. Prioritize tasks that contribute to meaningful growth, constructive impact, and personal development. This intentional approach ensures that energy is directed toward what matters most rather than being diffused by reactive responses, distractions, or habitual routines. Integrate consistency into daily behavior. Repetition reinforces credibility, demonstrates commitment, and allows influence to accumulate naturally. Performing purpose-driven actions every day communicates reliability and demonstrates that living intentionally is achievable, practical, and rewarding. Observers internalize lessons through repeated exposure to integrity, focus, and deliberate effort. Choose actions that have visible alignment with values, whether through professional engagement, interpersonal interactions, or personal projects. Ensure that decisions reflect honesty, respect, and ethical consistency. Purposeful alignment reinforces trust, strengthens relationships, and models a framework for others to follow. Observers absorb lessons most effectively when principles are applied consistently and visibly. Act with deliberate impact rather than performative effort. Purposeful action is neither ostentatious nor forced. It is calculated, meaningful, and aligned with outcomes that matter. Avoid actions designed solely for recognition, as authenticity is easily discerned. Genuine influence emerges from sustained, intentional effort directed toward clear, principle-driven objectives. Incorporate reflection to refine action. Daily evaluation of behavior, results, and alignment ensures that each action supports purpose effectively. Reflection strengthens judgment, reveals areas for adjustment, and reinforces consistency. Through self-assessment, actions become increasingly intentional, focused, and aligned with personal and collective growth. Serve others as a natural extension of purpose. Actions that support, guide, or contribute to others amplify authenticity and demonstrate real-world application of principles. Service transforms purpose from a private framework into a public demonstration of values in motion. Others are inspired when they witness tangible contributions that result from deliberate, principled behavior. Demonstrate accountability in all actions. Accept responsibility for decisions, follow through on commitments, and address errors openly. Accountability models integrity, reinforces credibility, and shows that purpose is maintained under pressure and challenge. Observers learn that intentional action requires both courage and discipline. Prioritize small daily actions over occasional dramatic efforts. Consistency in routine behaviors, interactions, and decisions produces long-term influence. Simple acts performed with purpose, honest communication, focused work, disciplined learning, or supportive service accumulate into a visible demonstration of principle. Daily action illustrates that purpose is practical and achievable, not abstract or theoretical. Use challenges to model resilience and authenticity. How you respond under stress, ambiguity, or adversity reveals more than words or intentions. Purposeful action in difficult circumstances demonstrates patience, strategic thinking, and ethical decision-making. Observers internalize lessons about perseverance, discipline, and clarity of judgment from tangible examples rather than theoretical advice. Maintain transparency in motives and principles. When actions are consistent with stated values, observers understand the reasoning behind decisions and see a roadmap for replication. Transparency and alignment fosters trust, enhances credibility, and encourages others to adopt similar behaviors without coercion. Purpose communicated through example is more persuasive than any verbal instruction. Integrate reflection and learning into daily practice. Purposeful action is reinforced through observation of outcomes, adjustment of approach, and integration of lessons. Continuous learning ensures that behavior remains relevant, effective, and inspiring. By demonstrating that intentional action evolves and improves, observers understand that purpose is dynamic, not static. Protect focus to sustain meaningful action. Daily purpose requires attention, energy, and clarity. Avoid distractions, eliminate low-value tasks, and maintain boundaries to preserve resources for actions that have significant impact. Focused execution demonstrates discipline and serves as a practical example of how to align effort with meaningful objectives. Communicate indirectly through action. Words explain, but action teaches. By consistently acting with clarity, integrity, and alignment, Others internalize principles more effectively than through instruction alone. Observation allows lessons to be absorbed in context, applied naturally and internalized authentically. Celebrate effort, not only outcomes. Purposeful action is about intentional effort and alignment with values rather than solely achieving results. Acknowledging consistent effort reinforces the principle that progress, learning, and integrity are the true measures of purpose. Observers learn that meaningful influence arises from discipline and dedication rather than transient success. Maintain alignment between long-term goals and daily choices. Every action should reflect larger objectives, demonstrating that purpose is integrated across time and effort. Cohesion between immediate behavior and overarching purpose models consistency, strategic thinking, and vision for others to emulate. Foster empathy and consideration in purposeful action. Acting with awareness of impact on others deepens authenticity and increases the likelihood of inspiring meaningful engagement. Purposeful action that considers the needs, growth, and dignity of others models ethical living and strengthens relational influence. Anchor decisions in values and principles. Each daily choice is an opportunity to demonstrate what is prioritized and respected. Consistent adherence to ethical, moral, and personal principles strengthens influence and establishes a template for others seeking to act intentionally. Actions aligned with values inspire both trust and emulation. Adapt action to circumstances while maintaining integrity. Purposeful living requires flexibility in approach without compromising principles. Demonstrating strategic adaptability shows observers how to navigate complex situations while remaining true to values. Balanced responsiveness reinforces authenticity and practical wisdom. Reflect on personal growth publicly when appropriate. Sharing insights, lessons learned, and evolution through consistent action reinforces the practical value of purpose. Transparency in growth communicates that living intentionally is a continuous process and models lifelong learning for others. Finally, act daily with deliberate purpose to inspire authentically. Each action, habit, and interaction serves as a living example of intentionality, discipline, and alignment with values. Authentic influence is the product of consistent, principle-driven behavior integrated into everyday life. Over time, repeated purposeful action builds trust, demonstrates integrity, and inspires others to engage in meaningful, deliberate living that aligns with their own purpose, creating a ripple effect of impact that is sustained, measurable, and transformative.